Big Tuesday on the Krueg Show. We're talking Niner football in the middle of the pre-free agency period, where you can basically the rumors can be shot around, but it doesn't all become official until Wednesday. But a lot of Niner news over the last 48 hours, and who better to talk Niners with than Jack Hammer, who stops by at Jack Hammer _NFL. What's up, Jack? How are you?
I'm good. How you doing, Larry?
I'm doing great. It's been, windy day in the creek. My goodness, we lost power earlier today. So it's been kind of a wild ride, but it's also been a wild ride for the Niners in free agency. Give me your number one takeaway. What jumps out at you the most about what the Niners have done thus far?
Well, the Javon Hargrave deal was tremendous, and they're doing a good job of filling their holes. That's what the 49ers do during free agency. They go and they plug their holes. They might not get the guy that's going to be the starter, but they go and they make sure they have a starting caliber player at each position so that way they can then fill in with depth during the draft. So I like what they've done so far, and the Hargrave deal is just I think it makes a big change for this 49ers defense.
Yeah, I mean, Hargrave gives them a pass rusher that they really didn't have inside, and the game is such a passing game that I think you're gonna have to combo block him. What does it mean for Javon Kinlaw? What do you think happens with Kinlaw next?
I think you see Javon Kinlaw. He's going to be a role player in some way. I think he'll be with the 49ers through training camp. There's no reason right now for them to let him go. They don't gain anything by doing so. And I don't think there's anybody that's going to want to trade for him at this point. So I think you see Javon Kinlaw make the roster or make the team, through training camp. Whether he makes the roster or not just depends on how well he plays. Because at that point they can release him and save some money after June 1st.
Andy Dalton, one of the reports coming out here day 2 is that Andy Dalton is going to Carolina. What do you think of the 49ers going with Sam Darnold as their third quarterback? What does that tell you?
In kind of looking at the reports, it sure seems like the 49ers are interested in having a little bit of a competition here at the quarterback spot. I think the general consensus among some folks was that it's Trey Lance's job to lose at this point. I know I've been saying that, but I think they brought him in as a guy who they've had some interest in the past. He's had some interest of joining the 49ers in the past, and he had a pretty good run at the end of the year this last season with the Panthers. I think he can come in and push Lance for the starting job. You look at the amount in the way that they structured that contract, it all points towards a guy who thinks he's going to come in and play some games for the 49ers this year.
What do you think of Darnold? Did you like him at SC?
I thought he was okay at USC. I did a film breakdown of him last year. I haven't looked at him, with really all that into depth with his time with the Panthers, but looking at his time with the Jets, because there was a lot of thought that he might join the 49ers around that time before 2021. I didn't like his film with the Jets. I thought that he was a guy who just missed things that were there. Also, I mean, that's a little unfair to him because you look at that offense that he was playing when he was in New York, and the Jets offense was just so disjointed it was hard to figure out what they were trying to do there. So, the nice part about having Darnold come in is this is a guy who's extremely athletic, only 26. You can see the well throws on film. And, it'll be interesting to see how this thing progresses. It's going to be Darnold and Lance are going to be your top two quarterbacks here during the whole offseason going into training camp. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they compete.
Obviously, Shanahan's liked Darnold for a while. I mean, I've heard number of rumors about Darnold and the Niners for years. So obviously there's some curiosity there. What did you think about the amount of money they gave him? $3.5 million. Well,
that's the thing. Yeah, the $3.5 million guaranteed, and it can get up to $11.5 million based on playing time incentives and those types of things. So it's very much a Jimmy Garoppolo deal. It's basically the contract they gave Jimmy Garoppolo, but just with a little bit less money involved. So it's almost like he's expecting an opportunity to play here. And you look at him on film. Here's the one thing that I understand in looking at it. This is a guy who, when you look at his film, you can see it, right? You can see the wild plays. You can see that it's just a lack of consistency in his game, because you can see every once in a while he's making the plays here, but he's not making the plays there. Very similar to Trey Lance at this point. That's the same kind of, that'd be, I think, if you talk to anybody around the first. Kyle Shanahan said this last during the offseason in an interview with Albert Breer about how, there just wasn't enough film on Trey. So you could see it, but it just wasn't enough. And I think that's kind of what they're getting here with Sam Darnold. It's an interesting situation.
Jack Hammer's with us. We're talking Niner football on day 2 of free agency. And of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. Check them out on the web at pigandapickle.com. Great barbecue. If you're in Marin County, check them out there at 341 Corte Madera Town Center. And they're also in Emeryville. They're open 7 days a week in Marin, and they're open 5 days a week, Wednesday through Sunday in Emeryville. Get the brisket chili, try the potato chips cooked in beef fat. They're amazing, and they're proud sponsors of the Krueg Show. The offensive line, McGlinchey's gone. He went to Denver. I thought he was going to Chicago. He went to Denver. Jake Brendel, though, was re-signed today. What do you think? What do you think of the 2 moves, and where did the Niners go from here to kind of try to fill in at right tackle? Or is McKivitz, do you think, the starting right tackle from week 1?
I like what they've done to this point. I wanted them to bring Mike McGlinchey back. I felt like he would make the most sense. It just, numbers wise, it didn't work out. They decided to use that money on Hargrave instead. But other than that, they plugged all their holes. McKivitz, if he's the starting right tackle, we know he's serviceable. We know that they can win games. He started against the Rams in the earlier part of the season in the first game at Levi Stadium. Didn't give up a sack. Played really well in that game. Played okay at the end of 2021 in week 18 down there against the Rams. So we know that he can kind of fit in. He's kind of like a Tom Compton type of a player. Very good in the run game, not so good in the pass. If he ends up having to be your starter, I think you can get by for a little while. I don't think the Niners are done there. I think they'll add somebody probably during the draft. As far as Jake Brendel, I really like that signing. 30 years old, doesn't have a lot of wear on the tires. He's an extremely athletic player. His it's been a little while since he did his combine, but you look at his combine numbers in terms of his athleticism and the shuttle and so on. And they're better than any player, interior offensive lineman at the draft this year. So I really like Jake Brendel. He's not the best in terms of run blocking, in terms of getting push at the line of scrimmage, but he's really good in pass protection. It's a lower cost deal for the Flyers. I think they're in a good spot.
Back to the quarterbacks for a minute. So they have Lance and they have Purdy. Purdy's rehabbing. The summer you mentioned, it'll be Lance and Darnold. Or do you think it'll be Lance and Darnold and a rookie quarterback? Do you expect the Niners to draft a rookie quarterback? And is there one that you particularly like?
I do think there's a pretty good opportunity here. I don't foresee them going into OTAs and mini camp with just 2 quarterbacks. This is not the way they do it. They usually have 3. When they get to training camp, I don't know. We'll have to see where Brock Purdy is at that point. There's a possibility he could start to participate in practices around that time, but that's a little bit early. And I could see them going after a quarterback, in the draft towards the end of the draft, kind of like last year. Jake Haener is the name that a lot of people talk about. He's local to the Bay Area. Max Duggan from TCU is a guy who I think fits their style as well. And then the quarterback from Houston, he's a pretty
Clayton Tune.
Yeah, Tune. That's a name that I've heard a lot about, and not quite as many snaps as some of the other guys, but he's shown some good things as well. And from what I understand, he's a guy who needs to see things wide open, and he can make those throws when he sees them. And you look at the Kyle Shanahan offense, a lot of times there's guys that are pretty wide open for the quarterback to hit if they can read it right.
I'll tell you, the guy who kind of looked good to me in the combine, and I wasn't expecting him to look good, but it was the Georgia kid, Stetson Bennett. Threw the pretty good deep ball. He looks like he's, definitely spent some time in the weight room. We know he's a good football player in the SEC. The speed of the game isn't going to shock him. Terradome writes Stetson Bennett. See, me and Terradome thinking similar thoughts. Glass City makes a super chat. He says, with E-Man gone, Emmanuel Mosley, that is, moving on. He said, do you guys have confidence that Demo Lenore can fill that role based on his performance in the playoffs? So let's get to I think the only area so far where the 49ers are worse than they were probably the last time we spoke, Jack, and that's the secondary. Jimmy Ward's moved on to the Texans, and Emmanuel Mosley has moved on to the Lions. And personally, I think the Niners have lost a lot of their football intellect and a lot of their aggressiveness and physicalness in that secondary, losing those 2 guys. They were both exceptionally physical hitter types, in addition to being good cover guys, that's a tough combo to replace. Who do you, which loss is bigger, Ward or Mosley?
I think the Jimmy Ward loss is bigger than Emmanuel Mosley. You look at the performance last season, Deommodore Lenoir, when he stepped in, he played really well over the time from the time he stepped in till through the playoffs. His pass rate allowed was under 80. I think it was like 78.6 was the number. He was very good on the outside. You look at his full season, it was 84, which is still better than Charvarius Ward. I know it's a little bit different because of the amount of targets and the way that they're going after him differently, but I think he played very well, especially down the stretch. So for me, it's Jimmy Ward. They don't have somebody at this point right now to plug in at nickel that can cover the way that Jimmy Ward did, or tackle really inside there. So I think that's the one spot that I'd be worried about right now when they need to add somebody.
I mean, do they go the veteran route, or do you think they lean in the draft? I mean, they have 11 draft picks, so they definitely have enough. They could take 2 or 3 shots in the secondary in the draft. But do you think they spend money in there was talk about Trey Herndon. I would love to go see him go get CJ Gardner-Johnson. I believe he's still out there. What do you think they'll look at a free agent in the secondary? What do you think?
Yeah, I do. I think they're still in that mode. We're only here day 2, right? So it hasn't really even officially started yet. So I do think that they're going to go get another defensive back that can play nickel, whether it's Herndon, like you mentioned, or Chauncey Gardner-Johnson or what have you. I do think that they're going to be looking to add somebody to that spot, and then there'll be a competition there. I think you'd see Samuel Womack be part of that competition to be the starting slot corner for the 49ers next year. I think it's going to be fun to watch how that position works itself out.
Is Hargrave signing kind of an admission that the DeForest Buckner, parting with DeForest Buckner was not wise? Because he basically got exactly the kind of money that Buckner got, and they easily could have kept Buckner. Instead, they went the Kinlaw route, and hoping that they could catch lightning in a bottle with Kinlaw. It just didn't happen. What do you think? Is Hargrave an admission that might have been a mistake?
I think it absolutely is an admission that they screwed up that decision there. It's the same deal, 4 years, 84. That's on paper, it looks like it, but it's actually not, because DeForest Buckner still had a year remaining on his contract when that 4-year, $84 million. So it was actually a 5-year, $96 million deal. The 49ers are giving higher guaranteed money to Hargraves than what Buckner got from the Colts. And it's going to end up costing them more money over the course of the term. So it's definitely an admission. It's good that they, that's part of life, right? You make mistakes, and it's how you rebound from them. And I think they understood the mistake that they made. And it seems like they fixed it here with Javon Hargraves.
Yeah. Terradome says, we blew it with Buckner. And then Bomber T, we blew it with DJ Jones. The thing is, you can't pay everybody. The defensive tackle market, these guys get paid. They're sought after, and it's just a matter. I'll say this: the 49ers always are willing to spend their money on the defensive line. I mean, they have not changed their philosophy since Shanahan and Lynch have taken over. That's where they spend their money. They're going to make do on the offensive line. On the defensive line, they're looking for blue chippers and big time performers, and they'll spend the money to get them.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I mean, this is a good move too. If everything plans out the way that they expect, you're going to have Eric Armstead and Javon Hargrave in the middle, and these are 2 guys, and then you also have Nick Bosa on the edge. Those 3 hardly ever come off the field. If you look at the snap counts for those 3 over the last 3 years, they're all pretty much the same, right around 75%, maybe just a little bit under, but pretty close to it. So those are going to be the guys that are out there for the majority of the time. Hargrave's only missed 3 games in his career. So between Hargrave and Armstead and Bosa, you've got a group of guys who can do multiple things for you. And I would expect to see that group on the field a lot. And like you said, the 49ers build from that front back. They're sticking true to what they believe. And I do think it's going to help that defense in the backfield look better than they were last year.
Aziz Al-Shair looks like he's jumping to join Rand Carthon in the Tennessee Titans. I really like Aziz. It's just, that it's the scheme that they play with. There's so much nickel. There's so much dime. You're only playing with 3 backers a small percentage of the time. He becomes kind of like, he's almost too good, for his own good. It's like if he were just a lesser player, you could just keep him as a third linebacker, special teamer. But the reality is that, he needed to secure the bag elsewhere, and they got a suitable replacement in Marcelino McCrary Ball, in my opinion. What'd you think of the Aziz move for him to move on?
I think you already hit on it. It's you already have Marcelino McCrary Ball there. Alshire, it's unfortunate, but the way that it works, you just don't play linebackers very often. On top of it, also has been dealing with some injury issues over the last couple of years as well. So, that's another piece of the puzzle as well. They still have. I think you'll see Demetrius Lanik and Fowles come back as well. So they have a group of linebackers there that can really step in and fill the probably about 35% of the snaps that they're going to lose because of Alshire going off to the Titans.
What do you think of their decision, I should say, to re-sign Tayshaun Gibson to a 1-year deal? Seemed like they got him at a pretty good price, and he's a very productive interceptor and a veteran for sure. That and what almost guarantees to be kind of a young secondary.
Yeah, I think it's good because you're bringing back a guy who knows the system, plays well with Talanoa Hufanga, so they work well together. It's just a 1-year deal. So I think what this does is it sets the 49ers up. They have a starter in place. Now they can go get a safety that they can draft and develop that can take over the year after that. I think you're looking at a guy that they're looking at a way of trying to build that up, kind of like what they did with Talanoa Hufanga. They're going to draft somebody, I think, and then that guy is going to develop as the year, probably get some reps, and then step into the starting lineup in 2024.
We've got this super chat from Kevin Wood who says, wasn't the cap way lower when they traded DeForest Buckner? They were trying to keep Armstead, Ward, and replicate Buck with a first-round guy. Kinlaw just a bad pick. Yeah, I think that's well said. I think that's pretty much how I remember it as well. It was basically like a 2-for-1. It was like you can go Armstead and Ward or Buckner, and in this case, you also got the first-round pick, and it would have worked out fabulously if Kinlaw had been the 3-down player that Buckner is. But I think the mistake is that you've got when you have big-time players on your front four, you don't let them get away. It doesn't matter what era of football you're talking about. Go back and look at all the best teams in the NFL in the last decade. Who's won the Super Bowl? They all have 2 guys. You got to double. And the Niners Super Bowl teams all had 2 monsters that you had to double, going all the way back. So I think that's just the way it goes. And I think Hargraves now kind of gives them another guy inside who's just a terrific pass rusher. He was a great pass rusher in college at South Carolina State, and he's coming off an 11-sack year. So I like the Hargrave move. Do you think that the Hargrave move makes the Niners the team to beat in the NFC, or is that too dramatic? Do you still look at Philly as above them, or maybe another team I'm not thinking of?
No, I think the 49ers from a roster standpoint are as good as anybody in the NFC. It's just a matter of if their quarterback stays healthy or not. I saw you mention it yesterday on Twitter about the need to have 2 dominant interior defensive line players. And I agree with you on that. I think that's part of why I like the Hargrave signing. If you look through the 49ers history, you can go all the way back to probably even the early 80s Super Bowl teams. Definitely you can do it in 94, the 94 Super Bowl team with BY and Dana Stubblefield. That was a big reason why they were so good in 94 in the interior. I remember that group, they won the Super Bowl there, and then Stubblefield left a couple of years later. It was kind of a similar deal to what the Flyers went through here. They let him go somewhere else. And, the team kind of fell off for a couple of years, and then they brought Dana Stubblefield back, and they had Young and Stubblefield together again. And what do you know? Right away, they're back in the playoffs and contending. So, you look at the way that the 49ers are doing this. As we already said, they learned from their mistake, and I think it's a good turnaround. In terms of this question here about, the capping way lower than when they traded Buckner, yes, the pick was bad for Kinlaw. One other thing to think about here, again, the salary cap, you're looking at a couple $1 million difference between having Javon Kinlaw in 2022 or 2020 as your interior defensive tackle, or DeForest Buckner. I mean, literally, that's what the difference is. You look at Javon Hargrave's contract, it's $6.1 million, I think it is this year. So right. We're only talking about a few $1 million. You could move money around with the way that the salary cap is. It's a real deal, but if you want a player bad enough, you can move money around to make it work.
Veteran kicker, rookie kicker, and do you have a veteran kicker or a rookie kicker that you like?
You know, I had a veteran kicker that I thought would be good was Matt Gay. He got a huge deal from I believe it was from the Colts. So another veteran that would, that I turned to maybe would be Eddie Pinero, who was I believe it was with Carolina last year. I think he'd be a good addition. If you're looking, he's a guy that can put the ball in the end zone on kickoffs, and he's not too bad on field goals there. Then you get into the draft, and if you're going to take one in the draft, there's Moody out of Michigan seems to be the one that most people are pointing to as the go-to guy.
What's still left to do in your mind? I mean, I guess I haven't heard a word yet about Ebukam or Amenahue or Jordan Willis, which is surprising to me because I would have thought all three of those guys would have been pretty coveted in free agency. And here we are, it's day 2, and all three of them are still out there. What do you think? Do you see any of those guys coming back? None of them?
I think there's an opportunity for some of these guys to come back. We'll see what their market is for a guy like a Menahu or Jordan Willis. Those are kind of the top 2 guys that I would look at. They're going to need to make some moves. That defensive end is one of those spots where I would expect to see them add a veteran through free agency. Probably multiple veterans there. I think other locations, we talked about it already. The slot cornerback is going to be a spot you're going to see an addition made. Tight end, keep an eye on that spot as well, because they only have 2 right now. One of them can't catch the ball, so I think they're going to pick another one there.
Yeah, no, I think tight end is a major need as well. What do you think of receiver? On paper, they look like kind of like a very complete, complete core, but there's a lot of speculation about, is Brandon Ayuk going to get an extension? Some people speculating that Brandon Ayuk could be dealt. What's your guess on Ayuk? Is he a short timer or a long timer with the Niners? Is he going to be a foundation piece? Do you see them extending him? Should they extend him? Where are you on Ayuk?
I'd like Ayuk. I think he's a good receiver for the 49ers. The one thing there is I hear a lot of times, how he's part of that whole draft with Javon Kinlaw, and he's put up good numbers. There's just so much smoke around him possibly moving that I have a hard time thinking that it's just only that. So I think if one of those receivers is to be moved, it would probably be Ayuk. You look at that group, and that's where the question mark is. Ray-Ray McLeod, I think, is in the last year of his deal. Ayuk's going into last year of his, and then same thing with Juwan Jennings. So they have 5 guys coming back, but they only have 2 that are tied in after this year. So it'll be interesting to see if one of those guys gets moved for a draft pick as we get closer to April.
If you could make, what's the ideal move coming next?
The ideal move coming next in terms of who they should go after? Is that what you're asking me?
Or position. What would you want to attack as far as improving this roster next? A lot of people in the chat are saying, the offensive line. But I don't know. I mean, I could make an argument for the secondary. I mean, really at this point, it's about finding players that you really like, that you feel like could round out your football team or give you a dynamic that you don't already have. What do you think? What's the next thing on John Lynch's list?
I think if you're looking for a big splash signing to come now, you're looking at a guy like Yannick Ngakoue to come to play defensive end, kind of build the spell. Drake Jackson and so on. He's played in the wide 9, so he has that experience. So he'd be a good signing, and he's going to cost a bunch of money. But I think that would be a direction you might see the 49ers go. Also, you already hit Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. They need to fill in that slot spot. So that's a big name that could take that role on. And then tight end is another one that I think, a guy like Austin Hooper. He's a Bay Area guy. 49ers had interest in him last year before he signed with Tennessee. So I think that's another spot to keep an eye
on. When John Lynch spoke at the Combine about Trey, he made me think that maybe he would trade Trey. And I thought at the time, all right, well, let's see who that third quarterback is. And then to me, that would give me an indication of, if it was truly a number 3 guy, then maybe Trey's not going to be dealt. But if it's somebody who's more like a 1 or a 2, maybe Trey would be dealt. Mm-hmm. What's your read on? I mean, obviously they need more quarterbacks, not less. So the idea of trading one of the only healthy quarterbacks that you have is always kind of like, eh. But what do you think? Does the Dalton move and the money he got scream number 3 quarterback to you, or do you think that how does that addition change Trey Lance's situation? Does it, in your mind?
The way that I see it playing out is if Trey Lance is going to get traded, Trey Lance is going to get traded late in the process. And by that, I mean in training camp at some point, because I don't see them trading Trey Lance until they know for sure that Brock Purdy is healthy. I can see a situation where they have a competition throughout training camp with between Lance and Sam Darnold, and that competition kind of plays out. We'll see how Purdy comes. I guess we've talked about earlier, they're going to draft a quarterback here, I think, too. So again, how all these other 3 quarterbacks play out, especially, it really seems like their belief is in Brock Purdy to be the starter. So if that's the truth, if Brock Purdy's the guy who they think is going to carry him, and he's healthy and ready to go week 1, and he's going to be there, and Sam Darnold looking good, and just whatever quarterback is that they draft, if he's playing like Brock Purdy played last year in the preseason, maybe there's somebody that's going to give him a 2nd or 3rd round pick in next year's draft for Trey Lance. It saves them a bunch of money at that point, because after June 1st, you can trade him and actually save some money against the cap. I think it's about $3.5–4 million against the cap. So that would kind of seem to be, if it's going to happen, I think it's going to happen during training camp or at the end of training camp.
Jack, good stuff, man. Tell people what you got covered, what you're doing on your channel this week. So if people haven't followed you, go follow Jack Hammer. He's got a great channel. Tell them about it, Jack.
Yeah, so check it out. It's Inside the 49ers with Jack Hammer. You have a show coming up here in about 20 minutes with Wayne Breezy. And then
nice.
Tomorrow's the kickoff to free agency. So I'll be posting all the updates that come through on that. You can also catch me on Thursday night around 7:00. I'll be doing a show, and then Friday I usually do one in the afternoon around 3. So those are the general times. But if you're subscribed to the channel and you hit the little bell notification, you won't miss anything. And like I said, I'll be going on, just post some little updates here and there as stuff happens through free agency. So check that out, and then also get over to 49ers.pressdemocrat.com. That's the Inside the 49ers blog for the Santa Rosa Press Democrat, and that's where you get to see all my written words.
It's never boring covering the Niners, right? I mean, it's just always something. There's always some. Let me ask you this: do you anticipate any blockbuster move of any kind as far as another free agent signing? I guess they would have to renegotiate somebody else's deal or extend them. Who are the candidates right now to have a Charvarius Ward restructuring to give them more cap room?
There's 5 other guys that they can go to. They can go to Christian McCaffrey. That's the one that's probably the biggest, because he has no signing bonus currently attached to his contract. So they could save about $10 million just by going to Christian McCaffrey and maximizing the savings there, like what they did with Travaris Ward. They can go to Trent Williams and save a little bit of money. Fred Warner, George Kittle. There's guys that they can go to. They can save about another $50 million against the cap if they want to maximize what their spending is for this season. Obviously, it's going to all be pushed into later years, but it is something that they could do if they wanted to.
Are they going to wind up at some point in the same spot you think that the Rams are in, where they're literally going to have to be non-competitive for a year or two just to kind of reset the thing? Or do you think they're handling their cap in a more responsible way than the Rams and Les Snead have done it, and won't have that massive dip that the Rams are enduring right now?
They've really done a pretty good job of managing the cap. That's partly why you look at what they can spend against the cap this year is one of the highest in the league. Now, that doesn't mean their cap space, but because of the rollovers and all the different things, and never really blowing it out to where they have to worry about it, they've actually been able to build it up. That's why they have so much more cap space. I think it's like $237 million, something like that. And you look at the Rams, and they're at about 220, 225. Well, that's because the Rams have always maxed out their money, whereas the 49ers haven't. So they're in a better financial spot right now. You look at the deals that they write, though, and like the Hargrave deal, it looks big, 4 years, $84 million. but it's only 40 million guaranteed. All that guaranteed money comes off the books by the end of next season. They could potentially move on from him in 2024 if he's not doing well, and they can save some money against the cap that way. Or it sets up perfectly to restructure, because the way that they do their deals is always a little bit lower on the bonus, big on the salary, which is how you can restructure, renegotiate for players that you like. And we've seen that do that with George Kittle. We've seen them doing that with Trent Williams. They'll be doing that with Fred Warner here eventually. So, and Deebo Samuel probably as well. So there's plenty of money to be spent if they need to.
Jack, great stuff, man. Always love to chop it up with you. When the Niners do more moves down the road, we'll get you back and chop it up and get your thoughts on where they go. And of course, the draft is just around the corner, so we'll have a lot of Niner news, I'm sure, in the next couple months. But thanks for stopping by. Have a great stream with Breezy. Tell him I said hi. I think me and him are hooking up later this week.
Perfect. I will. Thanks for having me on. Anytime you want to talk 49ers, let's do it.
Let's do it. Thanks, Jack.
All right.
See you, man. There you go. The great Jack Hammer, Santa Rosa Press Democrat. He is really good. All right. One of the things I want to get to right now is I'd like to know in the chat, what is your favorite move that the Niners have made thus far? And also, what is your favorite move the Niners have made thus far? And also, what is your under the radar guy that you want them to pursue, whether it be in the draft or free agency? Somebody had a good one up here that kind of, this one I think is pretty good. Low the Truth 05. What about Robert Quinn for super cheap? Quinn, it's funny. He went to Philly. He didn't play. He sat the bench. This guy had 18 and a half sacks. You got to wonder, was he healthy? What was going on there? Did he not fit in their culture? Something happened there. He's had a little bit of a weird stop and start career with some holdouts and this whole thing with the Eagles. I mean, you've had an 18 and a half sack season and you're basically mired on the bench and barely play in a rotation. What's going on there? I don't know. I'd have to ask a few questions before I would say okay to Robert Quinn. But you know what I'm saying? Give me your favorite move the Niners have made thus far, and give me that one guy you'd like to see them add to round out their off season. I mean, it's early. It's March 14th. We've got free agency hasn't even officially begun until tomorrow, and then the draft is not until late April. So you got basically a couple months here, a month, let's say 6-7 weeks of the 49ers kind of rebuilding their football team. I'll say this, the Hargrave move alone makes the 49ers a contender in the NFC. I mean, that is a front line to be feared. Drake Jackson's a hell of a player. You could put him opposite Bosa, and you've got Armstead and Javon Hargrave. That's a very good front four. And then you got Greenlaw and Warner behind that. That's a front line to not be messed with. Big thanks, by the way, to Casey Bateman and the good people at Telmetrics for being a sponsor of today's show. If you are an orthopedic or an occupational therapist or an orthopedic surgeon, a chiropractor, or a physical therapist of any kind, Telmetrics is designed for you to use in your practice. If you're like a weekend warrior, you hurt your shoulder and you need to rehab it, you're not sure how to rehab it, you don't want to go to the doctor or, any kind of urgent care situation, check this out. It might be able to help you. Telmetrics.co, TELMETRX.co. All right, let's hit the chat and see what people have to say. Jason says Hargrave. Yeah, has to be Hargrave. Jan Chosla has to be Hargrave. What else? Definitely Hargrave is the addition that changes their whole dynamic. That's the one but isn't it interesting that the Niners just keep going defensive line. It's just, they really love defensive line. We got this one from Jason who says Sean Murphy Bunting. I like that one. Sean Murphy Bunting as a defensive back. Corner is a need. I don't know what you're going to get out of Ambry Thomas. Right now you have three corners. You have Diamador and you got Mooney Ward and you've got Sammy Womack. You probably need three more. And maybe one of them's Ambry Thomas. So maybe you need two more. Do you go after after one in free agency, Trey Herndon? They're talking about Trey Herndon. Or do you go into the draft? and try to find some corners in the draft. I think they're going to wind up doing both. I mean, I can't see any way they don't. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, C.W. Scott says C.J. Gardner-Johnson would be nice. I think in a lot of ways, C.J. Gardner-Johnson not just would be nice, I think it would be really smart. Why? Because you don't know which of those young corners is going to, who knows? Maybe Samuel Womack and those guys emerge as just stars. Maybe Diamador Lenore emerges as a star. And then your need is not necessarily at corner. It's more, with one of the safety spots or at nickel. And that's the beauty of C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He plays all the spots. Rob says, what about Frank Clark? Frank Clark is a terrific player for sure, but I don't know. He's had kind of some rough spots on character-wise, and I just don't know that they would take a shot on that. I think they're big on high character guys, and I don't know if Clark would qualify, to be totally honest. Jaguayo says edge rusher Felix Anaduke Uzuma from K-State. I got to check him out. Actually, I have seen him a couple times. Super bendy off the edge. I haven't seen where he's projected to go. I don't know if he's even there in the third round based on the highlights I've seen of him. But, here's the thing that it has to be stated. The edge rusher class in this year's draft is ferociously great. Will Anderson's going in round 1. Tyree Wilson's going in round 1. Miles Murphy's going in round 1. Nolan Smith from Georgia, who had the crazy workout at the combine, he's going in round 1. That's 4 right there. Will McDonald, the 4th at Iowa State, very well could go in round 1. Isaiah Foskey, the De La Salle kid who went to Notre Dame, he could go in round 1. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Zach Harrison went in round 1 from the Buckeyes just because he's so blue chip. I mean, 6'5", 275, ripped, lean. He was a 5-star high school kid. Didn't quite do it with the Buckeyes, but he's a huge talent. Most people think he's going to go in the second round, but he could go in the first round. I mean, there could be a run on defensive ends. Derek Hall from Auburn, I think, is a terrific player. He's a little stiff, but I mean, if you're looking for the next D4, that's it right there. Derek Hall from Auburn. Almost the exact same measurables. If you watch him run and rush, he reminds me a ton of D Ford. It may even be a little stronger. And then you've got your guy from K-State, who's probably a round 2 guy. There's B.J. Ojulari from LSU. Byron Young from Tennessee had a massive workout in Indy. So, I think he goes in the first 2 rounds. Andre Carter II, the kid from Army, I would love to have him. Oh my God, he's 6'6", 250, and he looks a lot like a young Jason Taylor. I mean, he's really fast and angular. And there's just a ton of guys. Jose Ramirez from Eastern Michigan. Baldonado from Pitt is a big-time player. Diaby from Louisville is a crazy athlete. Isaiah McGuire from Mizzou. A lot of people like him, 6'4", 275. And then there's day 3 guys. The San Jose State kid, Fahoko. Incoom from Central Michigan. Ali Gay, I like a lot from LSU. Tyrus Wheat from Mississippi State. Cade Hall from San Jose State. DJ Johnson from Oregon. I mean, it's a ridiculous list of guys who can rush the passer. The guy from Rice has got talent. Brevin Allen from Campbell is interesting. I mean, there's just a ton of edge rushers in this draft, and they're going to be available all throughout the draft. So if they don't get a premium, I'd love to see the Niners go Leonard Floyd in free agency. But if they just said, you know what, we're going to go with a couple edge rushers in the draft and let Amenahue and Jordan Willis and Ebukam go, I'd like to retain one of those guys. I think it would probably be Jordan Willis, just because I think Willis really seems like every time I watch him, he gets a little bit better. He stays healthy. So maybe it would be him. I also read that Ebukam's, is getting offers over $10 million a year. And that means that maybe he's priced his way out. Ron Lippman says, I hope Jason Poe continues his ascent. Yeah, maybe he could, Poe, I think, is a backup center and guard. Now with the re-signing of Brendel, what happens with Zakel? I think Zakel is more than just a backup. So they actually have pretty good depth on their offensive line now that they've re-signed Brendel. They clearly need a right tackle or somebody to compete with Colton McKivitz for that right tackle spot. CW Scott says, I like Jamie Robinson in the draft. It's funny. I had Jordan Elliott on from Niners Nation, and I asked him who was the guy who was the most impressive that you talked to in Indy, because he just flew out to Indianapolis and spent a week, breaking these guys all down. And he said Jamie Robinson. And I can see why. I mean, Jamie Robinson is a playmaker, and he's another one of these guys that he loves to play. He doesn't miss games. He loves to hit. Now, my only question with Jamie Robinson is, what is he in coverage? Because he's a thumper, man. He is absolutely a thumper. And he's super aggressive up on the line of scrimmage. But can he play coverage? That's the question. I mean, it's become let's be honest, the game is a coverage game now. It's a speed and coverage game. So it's not about how big you hit. Heck, the bigger you hit, the more penalties you're probably going to get. These days, it's about, can you cover an athlete in space? Can you run? We know you can play running forward. Can you play going backward? We got this one from I3 the _I3, which just rolls off the tongue. Yes, we need Frank Clark. We need Nasty, Larry. Well, I mean, there's no question, but Nasty has limits. And, Clark, I'll just say this. It's more my coverall when I don't want to get into character. He runs a little hot. Mike Ruthless says Van Ness. Yeah. Have you seen Lucas Van Ness from Iowa? I don't know how many of you guys watch Iowa football. It's a tough watch. Trust me, especially if Spencer Petras is one of the worst quarterbacks I think I've ever seen. But Lucas Van Ness is a really interesting player. He's kind of a 5 technique. He's kind of a big defensive end, or an undersized interior tackle. He's kind of a tweener, but he's a first-round pick, man. He's 6'5", he's 275, he's got a six-pack. He looks like Bosa. And if you turn on the film, he's productive as hell. Iowa's defense had some incredible players this year. Riley Moss in the secondary, the linebacker, Jack, whatever, he's pretty damn good too. But yeah, Lucas Van Ness might be one of the best 5 techniques in the entire draft. The other guy that you got to see, that almost has to be seen to be believed, Adetomiwa Adebawore for Northwestern. If you have a minute and you want to just go watch, somebody who's just ridiculous, that guy, the Northwestern guy, is just crazy good. He's like 6'3", 280. He was unblockable at the All-Star games. Ran I think he ran in the 4.5s or something like that, 4.5s or 4.6s at 280 pounds. I mean, he's just nuts as far as what kind of talent he is. Hendrick says Larry's all bundled up. It is kind of a colder day. I actually came from outside, so I just kept my jacket on. Rob C says Rajon Wright from Oregon State. Was he in Last Chance U? Was that the kid from Last Chance U? Or was that his brother? I know it's got to be the same family, but you're talking about a long corner who's really can play bump and run. I got to see what his workout numbers look like, because is he slow? If he's got requisite speed, yeah, I like him, because I saw him play in the Pac-12. And I've always believed this. If you can play corner and have a lot of success in the Pac-12, you can play in the NFL. Why? Because everything in the Pac-12 is geared towards the offense. Quarterbacks are always good. The best coaches seem like on the West Coast a lot of times. So you get good coaches, good players. The game's officiated super tight by the officials. So they don't let a lot go on. So man, if you can shut down Pac-12 receivers whenever the weather's nice at all times. So it's not like late in the year. In the Big Ten, late in the year, there's not a lot of downfield passing. So, playing corner is a different deal. You play for ASU or you play for anybody on the Pac-12, anybody in the West Coast, the surfaces are fast all year long. You got to play coverage all year. So if you can play, several things favor the offense. in favor of the receiver, I should say, in the Pac-12, which is kind of one of the reasons I don't typically like Pac-12 receivers. Think of a lot of the busts. There's a lot of Pac-12 receiver busts through the years. J.J. Stokes was awesome in the Pac-12. I mean, that's going way back, but there's been a ton since. Terror Dome says Derek Hall looks like Derek Thomas. 4.55, 40-yard dash, too. He's got inside moves, uses his hands well. Yeah, I mean, he runs with body lean. The guy's got explosive movement off the edge. I don't know about moves, though. He looks a little stiff. But as far as just speed off the edge, that's why I compare him to D Ford, because he's got that ability. You're right. He's a crazy athlete. He can dip the shoulder, get almost parallel to the ground, and still not even break stride. I just kind of wonder if he's just a speed rusher at the next level. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's going to be able to counter back inside and push through the trash. I don't see that. To me, he seems like a dip the shoulder, one move, get the edge, and Auburn produces a lot of guys that like this, and have for years. So that's Derek Hall reminds me of a lot of the players coming out of Auburn. We got this one from Cody. Larry, the Broncos signed Mike McGlinchey. Does he still have some good days ahead? Yeah. Oh, no doubt. No doubt he does. I would say Mike McGlinchey's got 2-3 solid years. The one thing is he's never going to be great against speed rushers. So that's what breaks him down. He's got to really kick out to get out on speed rushers. And then he loses balance against the best speed rushers. And then he's too easy to knock off his pins because he's got to, use so much effort to kick out that it's hard for him to anchor. But I mean, he's a solid player. He's a smart player. He's a winning player. They've done a lot of winning here now. And he's got a mobile quarterback, right? Russell can move around. I think McGlinchey will be solid. I mean, they're going to try to run the ball, right? I mean, they're going to try to get Javonte healthy and run the ball. And he's a pretty good run blocker. Against the best edge rushers, though, whether it be in that division. I mean, I bet you, Max Crosby is going to wind up beating Mike McGlinchey for a lot of sacks in the next 3 or 4 years, because that's what he really struggles with. He struggles with those, the pass protection. But if the Broncos can somehow get a lead and they can have a lead in the second half of these games, Mike McGlinchey is also a really good offensive lineman to run behind. So, it really comes down to what kind of games. If you're bad, I think McGlinchey's got to play on a good team. If you put McGlinchey in a good team, and, part of it's like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Do you get McGlinchey and put him on a good team, or does McGlinchey play well and so you have a good team? But either way, it's my way of saying that I think Mike's a good run blocker and just an average pass protector. That's kind of how I see that. What do you guys think of Sam Darnold? And what's your read on Sam Darnold? Personally, I just don't love Sam Darnold. And I did a little deep dive last night watching Sam Darnold. And the more I watch him, the more I see just inconsistency. It's like he seems like he doesn't, like there's times when you would swear he really sees it. And then there's times where you would swear that he doesn't. There's times where he looks like he's really accurate. And then there's times that he reminds you that why he's a sub 60% completion percentage guy. And I just kind of wonder if it's about his surrounding cast and his preparation. Is it about his mechanics? Is it about his work ethic? I don't know, but there's something amiss there. I do think that he's probably the best they could get for what they were offering, which was $3 million guaranteed and a number 3 job. I mean, who do you think the guys that I was hoping for are all going to be paid more than that? I was hoping for Marcus Mariota. I would have been happier with Baker Mayfield. I liked Andy Dalton. By the way, Andy Dalton went to Carolina, I believe, today. But all those guys, probably the reason I like them is because they're better, and they're guys who want to start. the 49ers may not have a starting job to offer. They may have just that third string job to offer, and maybe $3.5 million is where they felt they topped out. I'll say this. I'd rather have the 49ers spent $3.5 million guaranteed on a quarterback that's just than pay, 7 million or 8 million for Andy Dalton. Because at the end of the day, do you want 3 quarterbacks who you can win with? Yeah. But to me, I also would like to have 3 quarterbacks in their prime. And I really, would, as much as I don't want there to be any like confusion about the pecking order of things. I think Brock Purdy's the best quarterback they have. And I think Trey Lance should be second. And one of those two 22-year-olds ought to play over Sam Darnold. So that's kind of how I see that. So maybe in a way, Darnold is the best they could get, right? Because he's definitely not going to be over Trey. He's definitely not going to be over Brock. He is in his prime. He did look good at the end of last year. The Niners do have tremendous weapons. If it is about his preparation, maybe Shanahan and just being in the Niner culture will make him work harder with his preparation. If there was one thing of last year that I really liked was I liked that Brian Griese seemed like he was a pretty good coach. I liked what I saw on the field. I didn't get a chance to interview Coach Griese, but it seemed like the quarterbacks stayed together. I mean, that's the one thing. The quarterback room, it's like a room within the room, right? The room is the Niners, but then the room within the room is the quarterback room. Well, you know what? If your quarterback room is fractured, your team often is fractured. And in a situation like last year where you started with Trey Lance and then you went to Jimmy and then you went to Purdy and everybody was all still in the building. And I mean, there were easily the locker room could have fractured, but the quarterback room probably didn't. And I'll give Griese a lot of credit for that. And the character of the guys too. The character of Jimmy and the character of Trey and the character of Brock. But I think that's a big part of it. But yeah, Cody McGlinchey, good days ahead, I think. Clarsard says, like you said, Larry, if they brought another young guy, something is happening at the quarterback position. Yeah, I mean, like if you told me that they were thinking about trading Trey Lance, I could, to me now it becomes about the next quarterback move, right? If they go for a quarterback relatively high in the draft, maybe that could be the case. But, I'll say this, and I'm on record as saying this many times. As much as I don't think that Trey's an ideal backup for Brock, I'd be very, very scared to trade either one of those guys in a league where quarterbacks are going down, in a league where, where you don't have a real long glimpse at either quarterback. I don't know, man. I think you could make a really good trade for Trey. And what I said was a good trade was like a first round pick and a player. You could make a good trade for Trey, get a good player, get a good pick, like the deal, and still look horrible because that's how much talent I think Trey does have. And I don't know if you want to take that chance. I think you might want to just play this out a little bit further, but you never know. The one thing we don't know, and I've stated this, we don't know what kind of pressure Lynch is under. We don't know what kind of, we don't know what Trey has said privately. We don't know what Trey's family or representatives have said privately. We don't know. We don't know. Trey has made it seem like he wants to be here long term. So if that's the case, you know what? I'd stick it out probably for another year and let these guys compete, let them get healthy. And then you'll have a better idea at this point next year, probably who's the real guy and who's not. Now, if there's always a chance that somebody's value could bottom out if they play horribly, but I don't see that happening. There's too much of a surrounding cast here. You know what I'm saying? The offense, Shanahan's too talented. Their standards are too high. The surrounding weapons are way too talented. I think it would be, I'm not saying it's impossible for a quarterback to fail in the system, but you just this is a good system. I mean, this is a good place to be. If you're a quarterback. G Code says, if Cox is available in a bargain, would you get him? It's Cox. Who are we talking about? Who's Cox? What position are we even talking about? I don't even know. Somebody else refresh me on who he's talking about there. G code. I need more than Cox. Fletcher Cox? No way. No way. No. No, the Niners don't need Fletcher Cox. I mean, if that's who you're talking about. No. I would say no. First of all, he's going to make too much money, and he's too old. And he's not much of a pass rusher anymore. That's why this move for Hargrave is such a great move, because Fletcher Cox had lost his pass rush ability for the most part. He's just a bull rush strength guy at this point. Hargrave was the movement guy inside, and the Niners just took him away from Philly. So now Philly, I've heard people speculate that maybe the Rams will trade Aaron Donald to Philly. Philly's got a lot of other talented guys. They drafted Jordan Davis. They have Milton Williams. Both those guys can play. Fish and Chips says, Larry, I think Steve Wilkes might have seen Sam Darnold has changed in some way. How else do you explain the signing? We can't. That's a good question. I mean, that's a good, maybe McCaffrey gave Darnold the thumbs up. We don't know. Maybe one of those guys, maybe Wilkes, maybe McCaffrey, maybe Shanahan's just a Darnold fan going back. Maybe Lynch had a high grade on Darnold coming out. I don't know. All I'll say is go check his college numbers. He was on some great college teams. He threw a ton of picks. He's thrown a ton of picks in the NFL. Guys had like 6 years in the NFL, 5 years. He's got double-digit picks. I mean, the guy throws picks, lots of picks. If you like picks, you're gonna love Darnold. Now, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just not a fan of Darnold. But guess what? Somebody in the NFL scouting community liked him. He went third. So maybe some guys. Some one person's trash is another person's treasure. I want to call people trash, but you know what I'm saying. Sometimes it doesn't work out in one place, but it works out somewhere else. We see it in other sports. Heck, I mean, the 2010 San Francisco Giants traded for Pat Burrell. He was hitting like 198. He proceeded to hit whatever he hit, 260 or whatever the rest of the year. He hit 20 bombs. They won the World Series. He was like their leading home run hitter from that point on. So, I mean, sometimes guys just need a change of scenery. Sometimes it's a poor scheme fit. Sometimes it's personality. Sometimes it's just you come to the realization, hey, you know what? I can't get by on ass. I got to actually try. I got to actually read my playbook. Or sometimes it's like, something off the field. I had a distraction. I was a young person. People mature. That's the other thing. Are you as mature? I mean, were you as mature at 22 as you were at 26? I wasn't. And I wasn't as mature at 26 as I was at 29. So they're just human beings, right? All these guys are just guys. So maybe you're just kind of a guy who doesn't work hard in your 20s and you get by on talent. And then all of a sudden you get to 25, 26, you meet somebody, you've settled down, you have a kid or two. Now all of a sudden, hey, you know what? I'm getting serious here. I'm showing up with a briefcase and I'm taking my career seriously. I mean, and you'd like to think that there's enough money on the table that guys would take it seriously day one, but it's not always the case. It's not always the case. Everybody grows up in a different pattern. Am I hearing Ebukam's gone? Is that what I'm seeing here? Klarsard 49, Ebukam to the Colts. That hurts. I like Sampson. I mean, he is a crazy strong, athletic defensive end. I mean, I like Jordan Willis and I like Jackson. I like Amenahue, but Ebukam has just got strength for days. That's a loss. 3 years, $27 million. So it wasn't he, it was $9 million a year. Someone said he was getting $10 million offers. It's probably his agent, right? He's getting $10 million offers. 3 years, $27 million. Well, I mean, I'll say this. Ngakwe is going to cost you more than that. There's just no doubt. The guy that I'm intrigued by is Leonard Floyd. Could they get Leonard Floyd for less than that? Maybe. Maybe you do a 2-year deal with Leonard Floyd. 2 years, $16 million. Something like that. I like Leonard Floyd because I think he could just absolutely fly off the edge. But as I said before, I love the edge rusher market this year in the draft. And they got enough picks. Even if they don't pick in the first 2 rounds, who cares? And you could pick 4 edge rushers and they could be significantly better than the guys you had last year. So Slick says Slick 68. I like that. Hey, Slick. Kyle was planning to draft Sam Darnold before Jimmy fell in his lap. Maybe he likes him. Maybe he feels like he can turn him around. We got this one. Smitty. Ryan Smith? Different Smitty. He says trade Trey Lance, a 3rd-round pick, Elijah Mitchell, and Brandon Ayuk to the Ravens for Lamar Jackson. It's an awful lot, man. It's an awful lot. You're giving up a young quarterback, a 3rd-round pick, a starting caliber running back, and a really good receiver to a team that has no receivers, by the way, for Lamar. And what are you telling Purdy? Hey, I know you were undefeated, and I know you won 2 playoff games and threw for 400 yards or whatever in the Seattle and beat Seattle in Seattle, but park it. You're number 2. I mean, I don't know. They're in kind of a weird spot with Purdy because Purdy played really well, but then Purdy's also got a serious injury. And we don't know what Purdy's going to be. Purdy could be really good. Purdy could be diminished. That's the part about it that's a little frustrating with the 49ers in the quarterback room this year is that we don't know what we have in Trey. We don't know what we have in Brock coming back. And really, we don't know what we have in Sam Darnold. The Niner quarterback room in Santa Clara should just have a gigantic question mark on the outside. No name tags, just question marks. Who are you? How good are you? What's your ceiling? What's your floor? Come on in. I'm Brian Greasy. Sit down. Here's your playbook. No, I mean, seriously, they don't know. We don't know. We don't know. I don't believe Lamar's going anywhere. Smitty says Lamar will solve all this S. The guy say S like I'm afraid to say shit. A guy who swears all the time and occasionally mixes in an S. Come on. He ain't going anywhere, right? He's not going anywhere. I'd be shocked if he's any. John Harbaugh has made it perfectly clear that Lamar's not going anywhere. This is a good one from Hugh. He says, I trust Chris Kocurek. Is it Kocurek or Kocurek? To find more linemen. Yeah, I do too. I mean, they've been loaded up front. They're going to be loaded again. They're going to be absolutely loaded again. Colts, we got this one from Fish and Chips. He says, the Colts plan to release Matt Ryan. And who cares? I think he sucks. I can't stand watching Matt Ryan play anymore. He's hesitant. What happened to the arm strength? He used to have good arm strength. Now he's just lollipop city. And he's immobile, seeing things. He's not, feeling the pressure. No way. I'd rather take a shot in the draft than go out after that guy. I'd rather have Sam Darnold than Matt Ryan. At least there's a chance that Sam Darnold is going to be better tomorrow than what he's demonstrated today. When you go for a guy at Matt Ryan's age, you got a guy playing out the string. If he was some like comeback kid and known for all these incredible comebacks, maybe you'd stick him on your bench and be like, yeah, put him out there. Heck, I'd be more excited to drag Ryan Fitzpatrick out of the Amazon booth than to go with Matt Ryan. C.W. Scott says, draft the kid from Rice. Okay, look at him. Tom Bragg says, get Arden Key instead of Leonard Floyd. The one thing about Arden Key is he's safer than Leonard Floyd. I don't think he's the edge speed that Floyd has. But Arden Key was I thought the key figure in their whole NASCAR package. In a lot of ways, he's the guy who he's kind of like a Drake Jackson. In fact, I think Drake Jackson was the replacement for Arden Key. About 270, and you can rush him inside. You can rush him outside. They're great stunting. I'll take Arden Key all day. You got to look at the kid from LSU this year, Ali Gay, who they're saying is going to be like a 5th or 6th round pick. He is, in a lot of ways, the physical prototype. mean, LSU produces some of these guys. It's crazy. Look at some of the athleticism. Scorp says, I don't really think Lamar is really that good. That would be a waste. I mean, okay, Lamar had some incredible years, but it was like 4 years ago. The last couple of years have not been great. And then you look at the playoffs. He doesn't win. He loses in the playoffs and doesn't play well. It's all there. Go look at it. It's like 1-3 in the playoffs. And his completion percentage around 50-something%. So I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. Is that on Giro, Greg Roman, or is that on Lamar? And then there's other issues here. He's his own agent. He wants a 100% guaranteed deal. There's other factors. Sargon says Larry's a legend, a true legend. If you said Larry is shit, true shit, I would not have put that up there. You know that. But because you called me a legend, I put it up there. This is interesting. Comrade Whiskers, which is a great name. Comrade Whiskers says Laramie Tunsil is available for a trade. If only we had the cap space to pursue him. Maybe we could we lure him in with some California ganj and a gas mask? This is the guy that on draft day, that was the big controversy that they showed him puffing a bunch of grass out of the gas mask. Full on facial mask, all these smoke billowing. It was ballsy, man. Probably cost him a few bucks, but it was ballsy. And I'll say this, some people, of course, took shots. Oh my God, it was ill-advised. And really, thanks for that. So, it was ill-advised for him to wear a gas mask and huff a bunch of marijuana and have it released draft weekend as he's getting the biggest job interview of his life. But it hasn't mattered. The guy's badass. I'd take him in a second. Give him a card. Give him a card and say, this is what time the game starts. I'll take Laramie Tunsil all day, man. That guy's a hell of a player. So what does that say for the non-huffers out there? This guy's huffing a ton of grass and he's out there kicking butt. Gazebo says, what would you do? What would you do, Larry? Stacked edge depth in the 5th and hope for someone to pop? Yeah. I'll give you an example. This is how I would attack it. I think I'd like to, I'd take the best guy available. So Anderson, Wilson, Murphy, Nolan Smith, Will McDonald, Isaiah Foskey, they're all gone. There's a chance that Zach Harrison, Derek Hall, the K-State guy, Byron Young, there's Andre Carter, Ojulari. There's a chance a couple of those guys, Jose Ramirez, fall to you in the 3rd round. I'm going edge rusher in the 3rd round. I'm hoping for Isaiah Foskey. If Foskey fell in the 2nd round, I'd try to trade up for him. I really believe in him. I don't know if you watch a lot of Notre Dame football, but this guy wore number 7, 6'5", 265. He's from Antioch, went to De La Salle. Just a tremendous player, team captain. Just opted out of the Gator Bowl. So didn't play in the Gator Bowl, so you didn't see him there. But he had 11 sacks for the 2nd straight season, 14 tackles for loss, led the team in quarterback hurries, had a forced fumble, had a fumble recovery. He's just a big-time player. I love him. Isaiah Foskey. This is the guy. If I'm the Niners and I can have one edge guy that, you figure they're not going to get any of these guys at the top. You can just forget it. You're not getting Will Anderson. He's probably going 1. You're not getting Tyree Wilson. There's no chance to trade up for Miles Murphy. Miles Murphy's a crazy athlete, 6'5", 260, and just crazy athlete. You're not getting Nolan Smith. You're not getting Will McDonald. So I think those top 5 guys just kiss that away. That ain't happening. But if you can trade into round 2 with a couple of your 3rds, or maybe you can move Kinlaw and a 3rd and move up, whatever you could move. Now that next group is where I think you're shopping for. Foskey, Zach Harrison, Derek Hall, Byron Young, Andre Carter. And then you're going into the guys like that I think for sure are going to be there, like Jose Ramirez. I'll say this. If Jose Ramirez is on the board and they've got those 3 picks in the 3rd round, I'm using one of those picks on him. Crosby was great at Eastern Michigan. This guy's been great at Eastern Michigan. He comes flying off the edge. I saw him flatten towards the quarterback in the All-Star game, and I thought, I don't know that I've ever seen anybody take that kind of an angle. I mean, this guy's crazy agility at 250 some odd pounds. It's still a little light for the Niners, but then he goes to Indy and he had the best 3-cone, which is like the agility test, kind of shows you. So once I saw that, I was like, oh man, because this guy's a player. He's productive, and then he was great in the All-Star game, and then he goes to Indy and works out like that. Jose Ramirez is definitely the guy to look for in round 3. What else we got here? Fish and chips. Larry, what happens to kicker? I like Jack's idea. Eddie Pinheiro. Steve Wilkes gave him the game ball at the end of the year. I would go veteran over rookie. You pick the right rookie kicker. Yeah. Are you set for the next decade? Sure. But I'm tired of using high picks on kickers and punters. I want to use those picks on athletes and football players. And I'll find a kicker. I'll find a kicker. I'll find a punter. I'd love to see them bring back Robbie Gould, to be honest. And just, Robbie, what do you need? You need an extra $500K? Here. Boom. Come on back. Because at the end of the day, what do you really care about with a kicker? What's the number one thing you care about? If you get into the Super Bowl and the game's on the line and you drive the ball to the 35-yard line, that kick's got to go down. That's Robbie Gould. That's not a rookie. You can't feel good in that situation about a rookie. Even accomplished guys. I mean, we saw Brett Maher at the end of the year. He's a veteran kicker who had a great year. And by the end of the year, it was like, uh-oh, here comes Brett Maher. So Robbie's just such a solid person that I would go with Robbie. I also think he's a leader. You don't want to lose too much leadership. And Robbie's a leader in the room. I mean, and that's not overstating it. Illest Cat in Nebraska. Great handle. He says, do you think TDP steps up? Ty Davis Price. I do. I mean, he was fine this year. It's just they're better guys. I mean, you got McCaffrey, you got Mitchell, Jordan Mason. It's just competitive room. I thought this guy showed some good things. I didn't see anything that I was like, oh my God, no. Get rid of that guy. He's 6 feet. He's 220 pounds. He runs hard. He runs with good body lean. I like, when you're 220 and you can move pretty good, I like that. I'd bring him back and take a look. Jordan Mason too. I'll say this though about Shanahan. Use the entire room at running back, especially in the middle of the year, early in the year. Go more by committee. Use more guys. Don't put all of it on McCaffrey. Don't put all of it on one guy. Use your backs. Use the whole room of backs. Spread it out. The one thing I felt like the Niners kind of did, and who knows how it would have gone because the championship game went the way it went and the quarterback got knocked out. But I thought McCaffrey, was a little dinged up at the end of the year. It's like, don't run him that hard. Use the other guys. Save him for when it matters. Same with Debo. Keep these guys loose. Use your depth a little bit better in the especially in the next couple of years as these guys are all a little bit longer in the tooth. Spread out your touches. Spread out your carries to your backs. Don't make one guy be the bell cow guy, even if he can do it. Spread it out. I think you'll get to the playoffs. You'll be doing better. Yaffee. Larry, we need Michael Myers. Michael Myers. We need the Halloween guy that Tolbert used to have on his icon on Twitter. He said the Michael Myers mask. Yes, I agree. I agree with Yaffee. I love Michael Mayer. To me, yeah, is it a deep tight end group? Yeah, but they're not that guy. That guy's blue chipper. That guy's Kelsey. He's Gronk. He's Kittle. I mean, it's like if you knew a guy was for sure going to be great, would you make a big effort to trade up? You would. But there's always that doubt. Well, I don't want to trade too much. And what if he's not good? Sometimes you just got to sell out. Michael Mayers from Notre Dame is both those two Notre Dame guys would be 1 and 1A. Mayer, the tight end, Foskey, the D end. Take both those guys. And they also have a Notre Dame. You got to watch the Notre Dame interior tackle who's a pass rusher. He's kind of like a Kevin Givens. His name's Adam Mailalola. 280, just like Givens, plays with leverage, strong. That would be a phenomenal day 3 pick. Adam Mailalola from Notre Dame. Rajbir Samra says, could the 49ers trade up for tackle in the draft? They could. They could. They absolutely could. For an offensive tackle, I would imagine what you're saying. And as far as the best offensive tackle is the Northwestern kid, Skoronski. He's really interesting. I mean, he's probably, I think he's going to go 9th to the Bears. Then there's Paris Johnson, Broderick Jones. They're going to go in the teens. And then it's kind of like, it's kind of speculative. Blake Freeland from BYU, I think could be a great guy to trade up for, but he's probably going to go. I think they're going to overdraft him. I bet you he goes in the first round. I bet you Freeland, because of the way he worked out in Indy, I bet you he goes from, mid-second round to like in the 20s. And then there's Dawan Jones from Ohio State, who's one of the biggest human beings I've ever seen. He's 6'8", about 380 pounds. Just a huge behemoth right tackle. And I think he's probably a round 2 guy. But like in the middle of second round, there's going to be a run. It's going to be Dawan Jones, Darnell Wright, Bergeron out of Syracuse, Jalen Duncan out of Maryland. If they could get in that group, I think that's the group that I'd try to get in. If tackle is the spot that you feel like you need to address first, I'd try to get into that group of, in the second round. The mid-second round would be your sweet spot. I kind of like the guy from Illinois, Palszewski. Kind of a self-made player, really good pass protector, played right guard, played right tackle, 6'6", 315, tough guy, really good pass protector though. And that the one thing about offensive linemen, you got to have a guy who can pass protect, because the league it's all about passing. So, you could have these road grader run blockers, but if they can't pass protect and your quarterbacks all get hurt, then what? You got to have pass protectors. We got this one from Tom. He says, if a kicker is there with our last pick, sure, but very risky. Well, round 7, maybe you could take a kicker in the 7th round. Chad Henderson says, is signing Charles Omenihu a top priority with Ebukam gone now? I think Charles Omenihu is a really good football player who stays healthy and found his ideal weight. I've loved this kid since he was at Texas. At Texas, he got up to like 275. He's big, really big, too big to really be a great edge rusher. When the Niners traded for him from Houston, I talked to him about it. You can watch the interview on YouTube. I think he told me he was like 270, 273, something like that. Well, this year they got him down to 260. And Omenihu at 260 on a 6'5", 6'6" frame, long arms. He's a beast. I mean, you can't handle him. And he's got great motor, great football character. This guy plays hard, really hard. So yeah, I like him a lot. I would bring him back. Also, they like that 4 defensive end alignment. We're going to an era where, getting pass rush in the obvious passing downs is really important. And the nice thing about Omenihu is you can put him inside on like a 4D end alignment. You can just take you can take Eric Armstead off the field if you wanted to, and just go Omenihu and Jackson inside, and Bosa and maybe whoever you draft outside. and you could have all kinds of pass rush. So Amenahu's big enough to play inside and not be a nightmare against the run. I mean, he's not physical against the run really, but I mean, he'll stand up and give you enough heft against the run, but he's a versatile pass rusher. Yeah, I would say it's a priority. Clarsard, Krueger talking about Michael Myers, not not Michael Mayers, Michael Myers. Play that every time he's on the field. You play this a Halloween theme. Freeland is a monster, according to LZ. Yeah. LZ says he likes the kid from BYU. We got this one from Fish and Chips. Larry, love your detail in your broadcast. 15.1 thousand already. Yeah, we got to 15,000 the other day. And if you're one of the near 500 people in the room right now, hit like and subscribe. It helps the algorithm. The like helps the algorithm have more people find our shows. But then subscribe, of course, you just hit that notification bell every time we go live. You'll just get a little notification. It's free, of course. And you just get a notification on your phone. Hey, the Krueg show's starting right now. So you don't have to miss any of this scintillating stuff. So, 15 to the minute. We're at 15,171 total subscribers. God bless each and every one of you. And thank you to each and every one of you for supporting this project, because I'm loving doing it. And I hope you guys are enjoying the content that we create. And if you love the videos, my son is helping me now with the videos, my college age son. And I think his video, now maybe I'm just the proud papa, but I think some of his videos are really, really good. Some of his thumbnails, some of the stuff he's doing. So check out some of the videos that Kev puts up on the Krueg Show channel. But yeah, if you're one of the 500 people in the room roughly here, if you hit like and subscribe, that would help the channel. And then if you want to be a channel member, I think it's like $4.99 a month, and we give our channel members premium content. G-Code Travels Vlog POV says cost the Giants a third round pick for tight end Darren Waller. 49ers missed out. Yeah, but what was Waller making? He had to be making a ton. That is an odd move. Foster Moreau is a free agent. The Raiders' other tight ends are crap. They don't have a young, awesome a tight end on the verge. I know it's a good tight end draft, but so what? Darren Waller, it makes me wonder about, is something going on with Darren Waller the Raiders know about, the Giants don't know about? Why would the Raiders hand the New York Giants a Pro Bowl caliber tight end? One of the what's how many true number one tight ends are there in the NFL? I mean, anybody who plays fantasy football knows this. There's not many, and Waller's one of them. He's such a freak that there's times where he could be covered, and you still throw it to him, and he still catches it because he's such a big guy. I wonder if some of these guys who are piping up big in Raider land were just super in with Carr. Devontae made sense, the fact that he's kind of anti, because they went to college together. They both went to Fresno. So Carr's probably his boy. Though I'll say this, and I told this to my Raider friends earlier this week. You're going to love Jimmy G. You just had one of the worst competitors going, a guy who was always throwing the ball away and spiking it into the turf. You got a guy who's going to hold the ball and let those guys open up down the field. He's going to play hurt. I mean, he's going to be outgunned in the division by the other quarterbacks, but I think Jimmy's a better competitor than Carr. If I got one game to win with my life on the line, I'd rather have Jimmy at quarterback than Carr. That's all I can say. Maybe Waller went to the Raiders and said, you know what? Get rid of Carr, get rid of me. I'm not sticking around. See ya. I don't want to deal with this. Maybe that's the case, because a third round is all you got. I would have thought a guy like Waller could have gotten you a little bit more. He's a big time player in the prime of his career. Maybe it's just a cap deal. Maybe it was a cap deal. 49er Josh says bad character on Amenahu. Well, you know what? He had a situation off the field that is yet to reach its full completion. I'll say that. El Camilo Dorado says Amenahu has troubles with the law, not the Niners way. I hear you. I know, but They did let him play that last game afterwards, so there must be some belief that that either was a false claim or it was exaggerated or he'll be exonerated, or maybe not. Maybe they just didn't know and they let him play. But you're right. Everybody's right on this one. That probably has to be cleared up before he signs. But at the same time, every team in the league is looking at the same reports, so we'll see. We'll see how they view it. Maybe not. Maybe they all don't think much of it. There's all these. Anytime there's any kind of off the field issue that involves information we don't have, just feels kind of dirty to speculate about any of it. But I hear what you're saying. It needs to be noted. Mo says, much love, Larry. You deserve way more recognition. All right. Appreciate that. Clarsard 49. Appreciate you, Krug. LZ. Larry, keep up the good work. You're the GOAT. I don't know about that. But I'll say this. I do love doing this. And I love talking to all the people. Look at this one. Welbert Campos, watching you from Brazil, Larry, and learning a lot with your content. All right, Welbert. I like that. Got to get to Brazil. I got to go to Rio. I've never been to Rio. I hear it's kind of dangerous, actually, but I wouldn't mind going to Rio. Ever since I saw that movie, Blame It on Rio, I've wanted to go to Rio. Not sure why. Go watch the movie. Maybe we can discover together why I want to go. Kev F says, thanks for the pig in a pickle and New York style sausage recommendations. Any favorite spots along the I-680 between Martinez and San Jose? Let me think about that for a second. Yeah. I mean, of course there's the In-N-Out Chick-fil-A if you're going fast food. I mean, those are both pretty good. But as far as there's a Red Smoke Grill in Pleasanton. A buddy of mine owns a really good barbecue spot. It's right off of the right there at the 580 680 split. Why am I? It's not the Burnell exit. It's the exit closer to Walnut Creek. Right there after you pass 580. If you're going south on 680, Red Smoke Grill. Check it out. My buddy owns it. Just, great tri-tip, all shredded up and sliced real thin on sandwiches. Killer house-made barbecue sauce. Really good. Yeah. Red Smoke Grill on the 680. Now I'm getting hungry. But check out Pig in a Pickle. If you're riding through, 680 is not that far away from Emeryville. Check them out in Emeryville. We got this one from Gazebo. Can Jimmy G get Devontae Adams the ball enough? He better. When you have Devontae, man, you better get him the ball a lot. But I mean, if you're Jimmy G, I think you got to feel pretty good, even without Waller. You got weapons. Hunter Renfro's a sticky-fingered guy. You got a tremendous run game. It's all about the Raiders' O-line. Can they put an O-line in front of Jimmy G, or is he running for his life? Tom Rothko. Yes, very beautiful people in Brazil. Scott says, Rio, a city unlike any other. LZ, my first love was a Brazilian girl. She was gorgeous, but crazy. That's beautiful. The stories that we could tell. She was beautiful, but crazy as hell. Why do we always go for the crazy ones? It's because we don't care. That's at the end of the day, that's really it. We just don't care. All right. I think that's going to do it for us. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. Stone Ridge. That's right. Stone Ridge exit. Daniel Shabazz, Stone Ridge exit. And he says, Rigatoni Red Smoke Grill off Hop Yard says permanent closed. Oh no. It's been a couple of years. Maybe he moved it. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Okay. Well, I got to give you another one then. Where else? Okay. Try now this I know they're open because I just went there not that long ago. Now there's better pizza places than Amici's Pizza in Danville, but you have to go there for the lemon pepper wings, and they come in mild, hot, and atomic. But the lemon pepper wings at Amici's Pizza, absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I mean, seriously, it's like one of my favorite things. They're oddly they're oddly addictive. And it's like I don't go atomic. I go spicy. I don't go mild, but it's an incredible. The guy told me it was an international recipe. The owner told me, Peter, where he found the recipe. And I've tried to make them myself, like lemon pepper. You can get lemon pepper at the grocery store and sprinkle it on and this and that. Can't do it. Can't do it. For whatever reason, I've tried to do it. It doesn't work. It's not even close. I don't even try it anymore. We got this one from I'm Bob Dole. 12:05 tomorrow. Lamar is a Niner. Mark it down. Haha. Thanks for the entertainment. Much love. Don't do that to us, Bob Dole. I don't get the fascination with Lamar. He's a running quarterback who wants a ton of money, all guaranteed. He's been hurt a lot. He's never won in the playoffs. And he's coming off of 2 years that aren't nearly as good as his year 3 years ago. So I'm not sure what the deal is. Comrade Whiskers. Crazy women make you feel alive. Clarsard. Crazy women give you purpose. Here we go. Black Orchid 772. You go for the crazies because they're beautiful. That's true. It's true. We're just not. Crazy doesn't seem like a bad thing when you're out with your buddies and you're having a few drinks. Crazy seems like, hey, you know what? Just a little crazy. But crazy, like after you've been married to him for like 5 years, it's like, oh my God, she's crazy as hell. Oh my God. What the hell did I do? Oh my, you can't marry the crazy ones. That's for sure. In fact, when you say to somebody, you're marriage material, that means you're not crazy. You're not a total lunatic. C.W. Scott. They make you feel alive when they're scratching you with fake nails. Now we're really painting the picture. Here we go. Vincent Johnston. Niners trade for Justin Herbert. Herbert doesn't win, but he looks damn good losing, doesn't he? I mean, he is central casting. I mean, and he made a couple throws. I bet against them earlier this year, and he made a throw on 4th down deep in his own territory that was just had to be seen to be believed. I mean, it was a post pattern. He needed like 32 for a first, and he came away with like 34. And I'm sitting there swearing, but I was like, oh my God. I had so much respect for him. But he doesn't win. They have an awful lot. The Chargers, Tom Telesco is a great GM. They have some of the best players in the league. They don't win jack. Maybe it's because their head coach is kind of a maniac. Staley just seems like he goes for it. If there's anybody in football that goes for it too much, it's Staley. Goes for it way too much. K Playboy says, Larry, are the Niners bringing back Jason Verrett? Nope. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. I like Jason Verrett, but last year was it. This year, nope. They're moving on. And that's too bad because you know what? That guy was a great corner with some of the best feet I've ever seen. Loved him in college. When he was healthy, his movement ability is just extreme. It's just absolutely top of the game. I mean, this guy can mirror anybody up and down the field. Just can't stay healthy. Can't stay healthy. Sucks. Sometimes your body just betrays you and you can't stay healthy. Jenny Vega weighing in on our side conversation says Jenny says that's a generalization. Men are crazy too, and they can be cute and crazy also. Jenny, we agree. We agree. Mimi B Why can't the faithful just accept and welcome our 3 quarterbacks that we have? You know, that's a great point right there. It always has to be like, I'll say this, and I'm going to say, I don't want this to come out the wrong way. My only agenda when it comes to the quarterbacks is I want to win the fucking Super Bowl like next year. That's my agenda. So I don't really think I have an agenda. I just want to win next year. So whoever can get it done next year, come on down. That's my agenda. But I get the sense when I listen to a lot of Niner content creators, when I go on their shows, that they don't just want to win next year. They want to win with who they want to win with. And I don't care. I just want to win. That's where I'm coming from. People associate me with Brock Purdy because I told everybody in May that I thought Brock Purdy was much more than a backup. But I like Trey too. I like him a lot. The guy I really don't like is I don't really like Darnold. And it's not personal, obviously. I never believed in Darnold. I watched him a bunch, and there were so many people talking so big about him that I had to like sit there and watch and watch and watch and watch. And every time I watched, I'm like, I don't get it. The guy turns it over. He's not that mobile. He doesn't seem that accurate. He doesn't seem that consistent. He's got this huge rep. He talked like some of his quotes coming out in the draft. You would have thought we were talking about the next Johnny Unitas. I mean, the way this kid talked, the confidence that he carried himself with, it was unbelievable. If there was the only thing that made me go, wow, I wonder if he's pretty good, is the confidence that he appeared to have. But now looking back at it, maybe he's just kind of aloof because he's not good. He hasn't been good. And now, is that because he was with the Jets? He was slightly better at times with Carolina. The people that like him say he finished last year strong. He's not old. The one thing I will say for him, and I've made this point at the end of the season, so I can't pretend I didn't. I really don't want to go too young or too old, especially at the position of quarterback. You got to have guys who are ready to play. The games are played today. So who cares if you got a guy who's going to be great in 5 years? You're going to be fired and somebody else is going to be coaching the team in 5 years. The game's today. So let's get guys who are good today. And then we'll worry about who's good tomorrow. But this whole idea, well, yeah, Brock's 6-0. Brock's threw for 300 yards in the playoffs. Brock's 2-0 going into the Eagles game in the playoffs. But we think we need to win with Trey. It's like, you're winning. You're winning playoff games. I think they would have beat the Eagles with Brock Purdy. I really do. Now, it's hard to say for sure because the Eagles dumbed it down after the quarterbacks went out. They would have had more for the Niners than they actually showed. But the Niner defense was easily the best unit on the field. You were seeing it. They would have scored points. I don't know if they would have scored 35. They probably would have scored 28. I think the Niners would have won. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Tom says, I fully accept our 3 quarterbacks. Good. You should. They're all Niners. I mean, I want the Niners to win the Super Bowl. If they win with Trey over Brock, so be it. If they both get hurt and they win with Darnold, I don't care. I'm still going to the parade. I'm still fired up. Still high-fiving my kid. May even buy him a Darnold jersey. I will not buy a Darnold jersey. Jersey? All right, maybe. If he wins the Super Bowl. Corey S. Lamar is 1-3 in the playoffs, so he does have a playoff win. Yeah, okay. I'm just saying he doesn't win in the playoffs. Not he's never won in the playoffs. He doesn't win. 1-3. CW Scott. I would like to see DTR maybe in the 7th round. That's a good call. I like that. DTR at times. We're talking about DTR for those of you who don't watch college football. We're talking about Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Plays for UCLA. 6'1", about 210. When you watch him on a good day in rhythm, he looks like a first-round draft choice. Moves well, throws naturally, great leader. When you see him on a bad day, he looks like just a college quarterback who can't play in the pros. I think he's a round 7 flyer, maybe a undrafted free agent. But I like him. DTR, I watched him win a lot of games. He makes plays. I like him. I definitely would have interest in DTR if they wonder, especially if Darnold, Trey, and Brock are their quarterbacks, and they just want a third guy that they can bring in, develop, and have for the future. I'd like to see that guy be, it has to be a player that's probably, good, has upside potential, but isn't ready to play. The guy that I really like is Malik Cunningham from Louisville. 6 feet, 195, pretty good arm. I like the way he threw the ball in the All-Star games. And then he's a runner. I mean, he's a tremendous runner. He's an impact runner. I mean, he's not Lamar, but he's close, man. He's nice. Malik Cunningham is nice. Really nice player. A lot of people don't think he can play from the pocket. Ricky Queen. Ricky, how old are you? He says, Larry, any relations to Charlie Krueger? No relation. Charlie Krueger wore 70 for the Niners. He was a great lineman. There's a picture in Levi's that's huge. It's probably like 25 feet high and 12 feet wide, or whatever. It's right there by the media entrance, and it's Charlie Krueger. And I got to take a picture in front of it because great player. It's funny. Eras change. Time goes on. People don't relate to Charlie Krueger anymore. But when I was a little boy growing up in San Francisco, I cannot tell you the number of times people would ask my dad, "You related to Charlie Krueger?" Like, no relation, not that I know of. CW Scott, Sam Darnold is going to see ghosts in practice against that defense. You know what? Maybe Sam is going to reach a new level under Kyle Shanahan. Be great to see. Be absolutely great to see. 49er fan, who would you trade between Trey and Brock if you were offered a first-round pick for either one? Trey, for sure. But just because Trey to me is still a speculative player. Brock's not a speculative player. Brock's already done it. He did it in college. He had a full college career, and he's already done it with the Niners. He's already played with pace and tempo and thrown with accuracy and moved within the pocket and, 13 touchdowns and whatever it was, 2 picks. And he took chances down the field, and they scored 35 a game. And I haven't seen too many rookie quarterbacks play that way. Trey, I'd be really afraid to trade Trey. Like, I wouldn't trade Trey for the 25th pick in the draft. But if I could get a pick that was high enough for Michael Mayer, and maybe you would throw in some other asset, and I could add what I think is a Pro Bowl caliber tight end to what they have, I'd be really tempted, man. But even then, I'd be deathly afraid because I think Trey's got some Mahomes in him. I think Trey's got some like, this guy's going to be at or near the top of the league in him. I just think he's got a belief in himself. He's got a ton of talent. I don't know. I would probably do it because I like Michael Mayer that much, but man, I'd be afraid. I'd be really afraid because I think Trey's going to figure it out. I think it's going to take a couple of years, but he's going to figure it out. Then you're going to have a 6'3", 20, what is he, 22? He's going to be 24, 25, and he's going to have 15 years of an NFL career right in front of him. And you're going to be the team that traded him for whatever you get for him. So if somebody comes offering a second round pick, I hang up the phone. If they're offering the 25th pick, I'm hanging up the phone. They offer the 11th pick in the draft and a player, we're having a meeting. we're having a meeting Guys, what are we trying to do here? Because if I'm Lynch and I'm Shanahan, I think they got to have a real conversation. It's nice to have the long-term potential of Trey, but how many years can we fall short of the Super Bowl and keep our gigs? It's kind of it's a make or the NBA is a make or miss league. The NFL is a win or lose league. And if you win, you stick. And if you lose, it's next guy up. And it's often not you. So, if I'm Lynch and I'm Shanahan, I have a meeting with ourselves and I say, you know what, Kyle, you know what, John? If we win that Super Bowl, we're made men. We're made men. John, you can go to Amazon for $25 million a year, or you can tell Jed you want half that to be the GM. And Kyle, you can coach as long as you want. And, you're going to be compared to Walsh, when it's all said and done. Or if they don't get it done, then it's like, John, you're probably going back to TV for a lot less. And Kyle, you're going somewhere else and still chasing that Lombardi. I mean, I think both of them are going to do just fine either way, but I just think they're made men if they get that ring, and I think they know it. And I think they're both competitors. Both these guys, it's a nice thing about when you do have a little money in your pocket like these guys do. I mean, Shanahan obviously didn't grow up poor, and obviously he's done quite well for himself in the coaching profession. Lynch has had multiple careers already. They've both got money in the bank, and they're financially secure. So now it's not really about the money. It's about getting that ring. And I like that, because that to me is something that means that we're all on the same page, that they're about what we're about. John and Kyle are about that ring and you, the fans, are about that ring, and I'm about that ring. So I like that. I'm comfortable with that. I like guys who are in it for the same reasons I'm in it. Remix Channel says, hit the like button, folks. Yeah, hit like and subscribe. It helps the channel. CW Scott, I wonder what Gabe Kapler squats. Any guesses, Larry? 650. Not a pound over. He showed up in the dugout the other day with a matching top and bottom Lululemon outfit. The guy's just, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting year for the Giants. I don't know if it's going to be a good year. It's going to be an interesting year. Larry, I wonder how that interview will go with Donald. Darnold or Aaron Donald? Who are we talking about? 49er fan says Brock is today. He says Trey. Gazebo, love our quarterback room. Yeah, I mean, there are people that have it all in perspective and are Niner fans, and they're not, I need the Niners to win with Trey. I need the Niners to win with Brock. I can't have Jimmy being the guy. Hey, by the way, that lady who's drawing Jimmy for like 400 straight days, what does she do? Someone help her out. She said she's having an identity crisis today. K Playboy, Larry, do you think the Niners should get Matt Ryan? No, I do not. Can I say it more clearly? No. He's old. No, I don't like Matt Ryan, man. Matt Ryan's done. I've watched Matt Ryan the last year. He's done. Done. D-O-N-E. Script spelling bee right here. Fish and chips. Yeah, but the national media says that with this system, Larry Krueger could play quarterback. 9-29 national media. That's what all quarterbacks were, not named Garoppolo, under Kyle Shanahan during this regime with a ton of talent every year on the roster outside of the first year. 9-29. So take that. Anybody can do it in Kyle's system and put that in your pipe and smoke it. Antonio Sosa. I like Clayton Tune in the draft. I do too. Clayton Tune's film is good. He's pretty solid. He's about 220, moves around, pretty lively. And I like that receiver he threw to as well, Tank Dell. I can take both those guys. Yaffe. Larry, how good do you think quarterback Caleb Williams will be in the NFL? You know what? This is another one that's like, I don't know how I feel about Caleb Williams. In college, he's awesome. But I don't know. I'm not sure. I need to see more. I mean, I like him, and I would want him. He's a big kid who makes play after play after play after play. he makes it look so easy at the college level, and there's going to be more adversity at the pro level. And then is he going to? I don't know how it all translates. I got to see more, but I mean, what a prospect! What a prospect! I will say this though, he wasn't like he was throwing to nobody. That kid Addison, who transferred from Pitt, he's damn good. So maybe it was partly Addison. We got this one from the Dale Gen 60, 84, 64, 84. It says trade Kinlaw for some picks. I actually did a video on this. Go to my YouTube channel. You can watch my video on what I think they ought to do with Javon Kinlaw. But I'll just give you an idea. I did a whole canvassing of the league last night. Just who needs a defensive tackle and who's got a player that's in Javon's category. And when I say that, what's his category? His category is a first-round pick from his year in the draft that the team didn't offer him a fifth-year option, and they could be looking to trade them this offseason. And believe it or not, there are other guys that fit this exact description around the league. I'll give you a couple of them right now. Miami has a corner named Noah Igbenogany who went late first. Niners need corner depth. I would trade Kinlaw for Igbenogany if Miami wanted Kinlaw. That's one. The Jets have Mekhi Becton. He's had problems with his knees. So's Kinlaw. Niners need a right tackle. Maybe the Jets feel like they need a partner for Quinnen Williams inside. Maybe, a guy like Salo could see like some upside potential in Kinlaw. I would trade Kinlaw for Mekhi Becton. See if you can get Becton healthy, and if so, maybe you got a monster destroyer in the run game at right tackle. Denver is looking to move KJ Hamler, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton. Now, the Niners don't necessarily need a receiver, but I'll say this. If I could get any of those receivers for Kinlaw, I think I would do it. And I love Jerry Jeudy. So that's one. Kansas City is not offering the fifth-year option to their running back, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the Niners system would be terrific. I think he can catch. He runs with good body lean, second effort guy. He's compact. I like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and I think he's done some good things in Kansas City. But they have Isaiah Pacheco, and they don't want to pay Helaire what he's worth. If they wanted Kinlaw, I would take Clyde Edwards-Helaire. A couple others. Cincinnati needs a defensive tackle. They have an offensive tackle on their bench named Dante Smith, who played at East Carolina, who I really, really like. And I would take him back. Cleveland needs a defensive tackle. They just got Dalvin Tomlinson. They wanted Hargrave. They lost out to the Niners on Hargrave, but everybody who knows me knows I love Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, the linebacker there, and you just lost Azeez. And Koramoah is just, I think in the Niner defense would be a superstar. So if they would take Kinlaw, and I'd probably trade Kinlaw on a pick if I could get JOK. And that's really it. The other one is Washington has not offered the fifth-year deal to Chase Young. There's no chance in hell they're trading Kinlaw for Chase Young or trading Chase Young for Kinlaw. But if you could trade Kinlaw on a second-round pick in the future or third-round pick in the future, that would be interesting. You got Chase Young on this D-line opposite Bosa with Hargrave and Armstead inside. Now we're talking. Now you're cooking with grease. I mean, if you get the best out of Chase Young, where Washington got the injured years, you could look back and some of these moves, I think these trades, they sound a little wild, but I'll say this, there's a lot of examples around the NFL of guys who went one place, weren't that good, went somewhere else, and were freaking great. I mean, you ever heard of Jim Plunkett? Drafted by the Patriots, went to the Niners, showed up on the Raiders, became a two-time Super Bowl winning quarterback, and was the MVP. Quite a bit better. Do you remember Marshawn Lynch? He started with Buffalo. Didn't work out. They traded him to Seattle. I think it went a little better. So I'm just saying there are guys that, believe it or not, just need to move. Brett Favre started in Atlanta. They moved him to Green Bay. I can't remember all the details, but I think it worked out well. Michael says, Larry, how would you compare Trey with someone like Trevor Lawrence? It's a good question. Trevor Lawrence, I I think is a way more advanced thrower. As far as Trevor Lawrence is, everything's not just a bullet. He'll throw us some touch. He'll throw us some timing. I think he's more advanced as a thrower. I also think they're about the same as a runner. I think they're both better scramblers than design quarterback runners. And Lawrence may even have a little bit more arm strength. He's very long limbs, and he can really spin it, as they say. Yeah, Lawrence. You could scout Lawrence from a satellite and be like, yeah, that guy's good. He's a big time player. But I like Trey too. I mean, Trey, what I love about Trey is the makeup, the athleticism, and the football family. His dad played in the CFL. I scouted him in the mid-90s. He played for Saskatchewan. His parents are really solid. He came from a great family. Everybody who's ever been around him on a football field swears by him. I saw the way the players in the Niners locker room reacted to him. He's a very popular guy in the room. He's a really easy guy to like. Why is that? Because he works his ass off. And that's the thing. You don't get respect in the NFL because you walk in with a fancy ring or a fancy car and say, respect me. You get their respect when you walk in and you outwork them and you show that you're a leader. So I think Trey's a great leader who works really hard, has phenomenal arm strength, above average athleticism and mobility, and hasn't played a lot of football, and also has played at a lower level and needs a lot of development on throwing the football and mechanics and consistency. But because he needs so much work, I think there's also so much upside there. And that's why I'd be afraid to trade him. I did hear Michael Lombardi do an interview this week on CamBR where Murph asked him, about the quarterbacks, about Trey and Brock, and he's like all in on Brock, and clearly doesn't believe in Trey. And I think Mike does represent some faction of the NFL scouting community that doesn't believe in Trey. I asked Randy Mueller, who's a friend of mine, a former GM of the Dolphins and Saints. I scouted in the Canadian League with his brother, Rick Mueller. But Randy's a former NFL GM. And I did a live stream with him. And I said, Randy, where did you have Trey on your board coming out in the draft? He said, Krueg, I didn't. I said, no. What round did you have him in? He said, no, I didn't have him on my board. I said, what? You didn't have him on the board in any round? He said, no. There was not enough college tape to put together a full evaluation, so I didn't have him on my board. I don't put players on my board who I don't have a good feeling about or some feeling about at all. He said there wasn't enough tape to justify drafting him, period. Now think about that for a second. All these people walking around saying, oh, this and that. Here's an NFL guy who's been a GM, multiple franchises, personnel evaluator. You can follow him on social media. You can ask him this exact question to his face, and he'll give you the exact same answer because he's an honest guy. He didn't have Trey on his board. He wouldn't have drafted him because there wasn't enough college tape to justify drafting him. So that tells you what level of a wild stab it was. The Niners went with a prospect solely based on traits and process. They thought they had a guy with great traits and that they would put him through the best process, and then that would do it. But that's kind of making decisions in a vacuum, and it doesn't always work out that way. And it's a little bit it's a little too reasonable. It's a little, and needless to say, it's a projection. You're projecting a player as opposed to seeing it. Like, hey, this guy did it in the ACC. Hey, this guy did it in the SEC. This guy played this year. This guy played in the FCS. And then his last year, he played one game against Central Arkansas, and that's it. So anyway, I personally feel like Trey's going to get there. I just think we all just need to be way, way more patient than any of us really are. I think we just need to be real about it. We all are not patient. The Niner media is not patient. The Niner players aren't patient. Kyle is not patient. Nobody's patient. Joe Montana was in the 79 draft. He emerged in the 81 season. Walsh protected him along the way, spotted him here and there, DeBerg took all the hits as the team grew up. Then 81, here was Joe, and he burst onto the scene. But, this idea that you draft him, you just play him, no, that's a new thing. You drafted him, you sat him. You sat him for a year, sometimes 2, sometimes more. Rodgers sat for 3 or 4? Antonio Sosa, what do you think of Clayton Tune? I like him. I like Clayton Tune. I liked his workout in Indy. I like his college tape. He's 218 pounds. You can kind of see he's pretty strong. It's like 6'1", 6'2", in that range. Throws a little bit too much off his back foot, but he's got some zip. He can definitely make all the throws. He's got definitely an NFL arm. And I liked his ability to make plays off schedule. I like him. I mean, there's a transition there because Houston's system, they run a lot of spread and this and that, but I don't think he's going to be ready to play year 1, but I like him a lot. And I would definitely, if the Niners drafted Clayton Tune, I'd be excited about that. Very excited. Yeah. Avtar says Matt washed Ryan. Exactly. Portola 45. She can now start drawing Gabe Kapler. Go from Jimmy to Kapler. Will she get the hand tattoo right? Will she even include the hand tattoo? Oh, is this coming across? Luke Walsh. Titans have signed Daniel Brunskill. Rand Carthon. That's Rand Carthon who's taking these guys away. He got Aziz. And you know what? I think Daniel Brunskill was the smartest guy in the entire team. If you go back to the interview that I did with him on this YouTube channel from earlier this year, I was just floored how smart he was. I was just floored at the level of detail in his dialogue when I asked him questions. Yeah, Daniel Brunskill, 2-year contract. He spent 6 seasons with the Niners. So really good player. He can play center. He can play both guard spots. He's versatile. He's not ideally what you want in either spot, but he's versatile. And, the thing is, they don't need him. Why? Because I think Nick Zakelj can beat Brunskill. Last year, Brunskill shared right guard with Burford. This year, Zakelj will share right guard with Burford if they share it. But I think Zakel's really good. The Colts have signed Samson Ebukam, 3-year contract, $27 million. He just came off of a 2-year, $12 million deal with the Niners. 9.5 sacks over the last couple of years as a rotational player. Played 51% of the snaps 2 years ago. Ebukam played 59% of the snaps in 2023. So they say they're going to play him in a rotation. They got Kwity Paye there. And they have the kid from Purdue, Odeyingbo. He's pretty good. And Odeyingbo. But I saw him play at Purdue. He's like 285. He's really good. And Kwity Paye is legit. So yeah, that'll be interesting. And then I was hoping maybe Caleb McGarry could be the cheaper version of Mike McGlinchey, but Falcons re-signed McGarry today, 3 years, $34 million contract. So he's off the board. I really liked him this year. He had an 86.6 Pro Football Focus run block grade. That was the best of his career. That he would have been a nice pickup, but they can fill that hole in the draft. This is kind of an interesting one. Larry Antonio Sosa says, Larry, do you see the Niners drafting or signing another pair of speedy one-cut running backs in the draft, a la Morris and Breida? As far as I'm concerned, I think running back is kind of like quarterback. You can never have enough running backs. When you run out of good running backs, it's game over. It's like the season's over. You got to have good backs. There's a lot of good ones in this draft. Bijan Robinson's probably going top 10. Jahmyr Gibbs from Bama is one of my favorite players in the whole draft. The Georgia Tech transfer. He shared time with J.P. Mason at Georgia Tech. Love Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, crazy home run hitter. A-Kane from A&M, maybe the fastest player in the draft. Devin A-Kane runs in the 4.3s, but he's 5'8", 185. Charbonnet's big time for UCLA. Zach Charbonnet. We're talking about 220 pounds, really good player. Chase Brown from Illinois is really small player, but but not, small in and height, but he's not small in stature. He's 5'9", about 220. I like Chase Brown. I'll tell you the guy who really looked good to me. If you watch Tulane in SC late in the year, Tyjae Spears, the junior running back, is in this draft out of Tulane, 5'10", 204 yards, went for 2 bills in that game against SC. Dwayne McBride from UAB is a good running back. Kenny McIntosh from Georgia, a lot of people like him. Keaton Mitchell from East Carolina, super fast. And then you're getting into, there's a whole day 3 running back group. Roshan Johnson from Texas, 6 feet, 225. I love him. Muhammad Ibrahim from Minnesota. If you watch Golden Gopher football, you know all about Ibrahim. Super productive running back. Auburn's got a back named Tank Bigsby, who's really solid. Kentucky's got a back who played with Will Levis, Chris Rodriguez Jr., 5'11", about 230. Tavion Thomas. I mean, Utah's got a handful of backs, but Tavion Thomas from Utah is a really solid NFL back. I don't know what he ran, though. I'd be worried about his speed. Deuce Vaughn, the tiny little back from K-State, crazy fast. 5'6", about 175. And there's other guys. SaRodrick Thompson from Texas Tech is a player. Deneric Prince from Tulsa is a player. Jordan Mims from Fresno is a player. You're getting the idea. There's a ton of guys. A ton of guys. I would definitely draft a running back. Definitely draft a running back. The only thing is they got McCaffrey and they've got Mitchell and they've got JP Mason and they got TDP. So, and they have other needs. So it's like, where do you take that back? But I definitely would take one. Probably maybe Deuce Vaughn, because he could be a return guy for you and he's a great returner. Maybe you go that direction. If I've got a favorite back in the draft, it's probably Gibbs. Probably Jahmyr Gibbs. If you watch Bama this year, he's incredible. Jahmyr Gibbs is absolutely incredible. J.R. Pena says, we need a right tackle. Colton McKivitz is not the answer. Well, I will say that don't sell Colton short. They also have Jalen Moore, and there's you got a couple you got 2 days of the draft. You don't pick on day 1, but you pick on day 2. You got 3 picks on day 2, and you got 8 picks on day 3. I love the Illini right tackle, Palszewski. Check him out. He's pretty good. Dr. Leon Ross. Larry, chill with the we're trading Trey nonsense. If the Niners trade him before June 1st, he has a $10 million cap hit. I get it. That rules out the draft and Michael Mayer. But then the Lynch comments at the combine made that, that's what made me think they're going to trade him. It's just because Lynch was like, made it seem like he could have complimented him. He didn't. He made it seem like playing him was a problem. So I don't know. It seemed like the kind of thing that you would say to other GMs if you wanted to get a good deal for Trey. It just sounded like a guy who's getting. It sounded to me. It sounded so much like what Myers and Kerr had said about James Wiseman a couple weeks before they traded him, and that's what got me on that thing. But you're probably right. He's probably going nowhere. Mateo says, Larry, how do you feel about Mike leaving to the Broncos? Good or bad? I think the difference between, I would have been mad if the Niners had paid McGlinchey what Denver paid him. They went to the NFC Championship game the year before with Tom Compton at right tackle. You have to have blue chippers. You don't have to pay McGlinchey. The distance between McGlinchey and McKivitz is not a huge divide there. So yeah. What happened with Brunskill, 49er fan? He left. Brunskill is now in Tennessee. We'll get this one. The Dale Gen 84. Could we trade Kinlaw to get Defoe back? No, you cannot do that. Chris Ballard will not do that. The Titans did get Aziz, yes. So Val Ramos says Clyde Edwards-Helaire runs very hard. Now people are reacting to my Kinlaw examples. I said Kinlaw Comrade Whiskers, if we get Chase Young, I'd bust. G Code Travels Vlog POV. The 49ers played for the San Francisco Giants. If the 49ers players played for the San Francisco Giants, name the position. I take Danny Gray and put him in center field. Just have those wide bases. Just put him on first. Just let him go. Danny, you got the green light. I mean, could you imagine what Danny Gray would look like on a baseball diamond? Those guys don't run 4.2. There's not that kind of speed. He would steal bases standing up. I'll take Danny Gray. I'd also take Aaron Banks because Aaron Banks is an athlete. If you go on YouTube, you can find highlights of Aaron Banks jamming in high school for El Cerrito. What a great athlete. What a great athlete Aaron Banks is. Lee Ving says, Nick Zakelj have enough positional flexibility to replace Brunskill? No doubt. He's an upgrade from Brunskill. Brunskill's a smarter player, but Zakel's a smart, tough, physical football player who's going to get his chance. And when he gets his chance, he's not going to let it go. This kid's, he's tough, he's smart, he's accountable, he's a great developmental offensive lineman. And I believe me, I'm the guy, sadly, who watches all these drills. When this guy locks out, I'd love to know what a guy like Zakelj benches, because when he locks out, I mean, he rattles the defensive lineman on the other side. He just absolutely, you see them jarred by the way Zakelj locks out. I'm just random drills. We're not even talking about D linemen. I'm just talking about other offensive linemen in some of these drills. So I like the aggressiveness. I like what I'm seeing from Zakelj. And then I talked to him a couple times. He's smart as a whip, man. He's exactly what you want. He's smart. He's respectful. Great pick. Great pick. That kid's going to be a player. Terradome says, Krueg, they just restructured Fred Warner, saving $9 million. Yeah, you knew that was coming. They restructured Charvarius today. They restructured Ward today. And then if they can get Warner today, if they can get Bosa's deal done, that's going to save money on the cap. But yeah, what happened over the last couple of days were theoretical moves. Now you actually have to make the actual cuts to create the actual cap room to actually sign these guys on Wednesday. So you're going to see a number of cuts tonight around the league and a number of restructures as well, I think. As teams try to get, you have to be compliant with the cap. It's not one of these kind of murky soft cap things. It's more of a hard cap. Clarence Beeks, all the McGlinchey hate on Twitter made him leave. Nah, he was leaving. He was leaving because the Niners couldn't pay him. Chad, does Grant Cohn ever frustrate you with his answers? No. I love Grant. He's great. Seriously. I don't need to surround myself with people. I don't like yes men. I really don't. I don't want a bunch of people who are, you're right. Nothing truer has ever been said. Say it again. I concur. I don't need that. I'd rather you call my radio show when I had a radio show and say, you know what? I rarely agree with you, but today I do. Or I usually agree with you, but today I don't. That to me, because some people do their shows like they're running for office. I don't want to do that kind of show. I want to give you my honest opinion. And if it's a consensus opinion that other people have, great. Then I'll be with everybody else. But if it's an opinion that keeps me out there on an island by myself, that's fine too. I don't need you to agree with me every time. I need you to keep watching. I need you to keep listening. I need you to hit like and subscribe. Maybe even be a channel member. Maybe buy a Krueg Show t-shirt. But I don't need you to agree with me. You know what? The bottom line is just because I'm saying it today, that's how I feel today. There's another game tomorrow, and after I watch it, my opinion is going to evolve, and I would expect yours to do the same. So, Austin Rodriguez, if we trade Lance for the 11th pick, who do we take? Or do we trade down for some more picks? I mean, there's all kinds. I mean, you could take a top corner. Let's take a look. The mock draft that I like to reference when I'm looking at the mock drafts, I kind of like tankathon.com. I don't know if you guys ever check out tankathon.com, but it's pretty good. And then you click on the NFL, then you click on the mock draft. They give you a 3-round mock draft. So if they had the 11th pick, they say Skoronski from Northwestern is the best player available. They have him going 11th. They have the Ohio State receiver, Jackson Smith. They have Broderick Jones, Devin Witherspoon from Illinois. I mean, if they don't have a corner, I'd be very tempted to go with Devin Witherspoon from Illinois. I really, really like Devin Witherspoon. I really like Joey Porter from Penn State. I mean, if they're looking for a corner, you may go corner. But then you've got Lucas Van Ness from Iowa, who I think is a star, and Michael Mayer from Notre Dame, who I think is a star. And, those guys are sitting right there. So I think I'd probably pick out of that group I just named. I'll tell you the other guy that I really love in this draft. They have him going 30th, but I think by draft day, he's going to go quite a bit higher than that. And that's the Pittsburgh defensive lineman, Krueger Yancey. I mean, Krueger Yancey is a flat out player, man. I mean, I watched a lot of Pitt. This guy's 6'1", 280, and he's unblockable. He's just unblockable. His film is great. He's a terrific football player. So I would definitely consider Krueger Yancey. But then I'd probably be choosing between Michael Mayer, Lucas Van Ness, and one of those two corners, Devin Witherspoon or Joey Porter Jr. And at the end of the decision, I'd probably go Michael Mayer. 6'4", 250, great receiver, great blocker, blue chip player. And especially if Brock winds up being the starter at quarterback, Brock really goes to the tight end a lot. Threw a ton of passes to Charlie Kohler at Iowa State. If you had Kittle and you had Mayer, good luck. Good luck defending that. Antonio Sosa. Larry, do you think Jonathan Mingo will be on the Niners' radar? He should be. Should be. I love Jonathan Mingo. Jonathan Mingo is a big receiver for Ole Miss and 6'2", 220, but ran a good 40 time. And if you watch his film, he made plays down the field all year. I mean, he's 220 pounds. And they're thinking he's going to be there right around. They have him slated to go 97th. So, that's end of round 3. That's right where the Niners pick. Niners pick 99, I think 101, 102, something like that. Now, they don't need a receiver. And I don't expect them to go for Mingo there. But there's a chance Mingo falls a little bit. Yeah, I like Mingo. When you watch him, you're like, oh, yeah. And Ole Miss has had some tremendous receivers. My God. Ole Miss's receivers the last few years. I mean, A.J. Brown, star, DK Metcalf, star, and the even lesser guys are better. Yeah, we're getting lots of word here that Fred is restructured, and I think that's just to get Hargrave in the fold. I don't think there's going to be – I'll say this. If there was one big-time expenditure, give me C.J. Gardner-Johnson. That hit on Isaiah Pacheco in the Super Bowl was Ronnie Lott on Ickey Woods. For you kids who never saw Ronnie, that's what Ronnie did to Ickey Woods. What C.J. Gardner-Johnson did to Pacheco in the bowl. We just starched him. And he never quite ran the same. Ickey didn't, and neither did Pacheco. What a hit. C.J. Gardner-Johnson is a tremendous player. Roadhog, 228. Love that handle. Panthers getting a quarterback but have no wide receivers. Trade Ayuk for the first pick. Yeah. We'll take the number 1 pick in the draft for Brandon Ayuk. They've got some receivers, right? They got Terrace Marshall. They just traded DJ Moore. I'm Bob Dole. Any truth to the Ayuk trade rumors? Kinlaw for Becton would be huge. Can you please call Kyle and let him know? Hey, Kyle, this is Larry Krueger. Yeah, from YouTube. Yeah. I used to see you at the facility all the time. Yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm doing. Hey, I just got a quick thought that I just want to share with you. Have you thought about maybe Kinlaw for Becton? What? You got to go? All right, call me back. No. He hung up. He had to go. He said he'd call me back, though. We got this one. Welbert Campos. Let's break the record with the longest 49ers show, Larry. We are here with you until the end. Dude, I don't even have the heart to tell you how long the longest Niners show is. We do have close to 500 people in the room, so I could go all night. But we're only 2 hours and 19 minutes in, And I've got multiple shows over 4 hours. Multiple. Antonio Sosa, Larry, who could be the Niners gems this year in the mid rounds of the draft? Name a position. I'll give you all kinds of them. I like Jose Ramirez from Eastern Michigan as a pass rusher. I really do. That's the guy that I really, really like. And there's other guys, like, there's good day 3 steals. Marte Mapu from Sac State is like probably a weak side backer slash safety, maybe strong safety. Love Mapu, knows how to play, really competitive, great play speed. I would definitely be interested in him on day 3. Elijah Higgins out of Stanford played wide receiver, but I think on the Niners, I would project a position switch to a movement tight end. He's 6'3", 235, and he's a great athlete, and he's a terrific kid. I'd be interested in him in the 7th round. The West Virginia receiver, Bryce Ford Wheaton, 6'4", 220. He ran 4.38. Crazy athlete, but he doesn't have a lot of collegiate production. So it's a little bit of a projection, but I love him. He's probably going to be there in round 3 or in day 3. So yeah, you tell me the position that you like, and I could tell you somebody from day 3 that I like. Day 3 quarterbacks, I definitely like Tanner McKee. Definitely like Clayton Tune. Definitely like Stetson Bennett and Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Like Malik Cunningham. So, it really depends. I'll do a lot more on the draft as we get closer to the draft. And I'll do profiles on a lot of these players and get a little deeper on some of them so we can tell you exactly why I like them and exactly why I think they're going to transition well. Calba weighs in with a long one. He says trading Trey before the draft would create an $11 million dead cap hit, which is $1.7 million higher than he's slated to count for 2023, but it frees up $10.9 million in 2024, so you can restructure other deals to move money. Yeah, I mean, we can play the cap game, but the one thing we've seen through the years is the cap can be massaged, and you can move money around and bonus money around to basically enable you to do nearly anything you want to do. So it's just a matter of how do they feel about him. If they feel like Trey is going to be that he's got some inherent flaw to his game and that he's not going to fulfill his potential, probably makes sense to trade him now. If they feel like he's going to absolutely improve, then it makes 0 sense to trade him now. And that we don't really know how they actually feel about Trey. We know well, yeah, we do. He said that. Come on. We're going to play that game? Everybody loves everybody until they're traded. Everybody loves everybody until somebody's fired. You just say, show me a quote where a general manager said he didn't like one of his players. You love everybody. It's just good business. Nick says, what's up, Larry? Were there a lot of fans in Arizona like normal for spring training? What we should feel? I feel baseball is dying. Sorry for the off topic. No, not at all, Nick. It was a little lighter attended than in the past. They sold out for the Saturday Giant Dodger game that I went to. They got a great crowd in Salt River at the Rockies facility for Giants Rockies on the Friday game I went to. The Giants Brewers game I went to on the Thursday was probably about 70% full. So the crowds are down there. I think Giants fans are just a little bit like, you know what? Disgusted by this offseason. I don't really like Kapler. And, I like Sabian more than I like Farhan, and I like Bochy more than I like Kapler. And there's no great young player yet. And they said they were going to improve up the middle, and they really didn't. They said they were going to improve their pitching, and they got rid of Rodon. I think Giants fans, we're all there. So nobody's jumping ship, but we're also waiting to see what it looks like. I'll say this: Kapler seemed a little tight. Had a couple little back and forths with some of the media people who just asked basic questions, and everybody was very puckered up tight. Well, I know what you're trying to get at, but that's the answer I have for you. But I just want to know. No, but let me tell you, it's just a lot of intensity for, March 10th, where Boch, I think, would have been leaning back, get a beer. Hey, we like our pitching. It's like, there's an intensity to Kapler. Maybe it's the key to what makes him him. Maybe it's annoying as hell. I don't know. You'd have to ask the players. But they're relatively thin. But I'll say this, Casey Schmidt, real deal. And that kid Blake Sable, he looks good. And the Giants have some arms that look pretty good. So and Conforto looks like he's primed for a big, big year. That's all the Giants we can talk for today because we like to eat. No, I'm just joking. But as soon as we start talking Giants, people start falling off. Moo Weed says 49ers restructured Fred's contract. CJ Gardner-Johnson. Ooh. If they go CJ Gardner-Johnson, that would be awesome. I mean, that would just be like, you got to be, I mean, and Lynch should know this position, right? Lynch, if I know CJ Gardner-Johnson's a difference maker, then John Lynch, Hall of Famer, super smart, monster hitter, knows that this guy's a difference maker too. Come on. If I know it, he knows it. It's just about money. Do they have enough money? Can they afford him? Could they fold him in? I would do it, man. I would do it. CJ Gardner-Johnson is a difference maker. You have to have a few difference makers. You can't always just go with, we'll go with a late round guy. Sometimes there's certain guys that get you ready to play. Jimmy Ward was one of those guys. Emmanuel Mosley was another one of those guys. That's the biggest. What's the Niners' biggest loss in free agency? It's the game day physicality of Mosley and Jimmy Ward. Losing those guys hurts the most. And if you got CJ Gardner-Johnson, there's no more of that. No more concern about that. He's, some guys play for money. Some guys play for glory. Some guys come to just F people up. And CJ Gardner-Johnson plays to F people up. And you got to have a couple guys like that. No question. Okay, let's see. We got a bunch of people in the chat. Everybody, man, you guys are chatting on a breakneck speed. Fish and Chips asks about Tariq Castro Fields. At the Commanders' release, will they bring him back? Somebody liked him in the draft. He looked a little stiff, to be honest. What's the news on Trey Herndon? Let me check on that. I don't know. I know they showed interest in Herndon. He's a slot corner, played with Jacksonville. Obviously, there's a need there because they're a little thin on the corner. I see nothing. Mosley, of course, is signed with the Lions 1 year, $6 million. I see nothing yet on Herndon. And I'll be totally honest. I haven't watched a lot of Herndon. I couldn't tell you today about Herndon and what exactly he is or isn't. I'd have to go literally do a deep dive and study him for at least a half hour. Antonio Sosa. Larry, why do you think CJ Gardner-Johnson hasn't been signed yet? Well, it's only day 2. I mean, we haven't even gotten to actual free agency yet. This is all the tampering period before free agency. Antonio. Larry, you mean you don't have a bat phone to the Niners? I should, man. I should. I've got some phenomenal ideas. At least they're phenomenal to me. Terradome, the draft is thick at edge. Brooks from Bowling Green. Aditamiwa Atabare, Northwestern. Lucas Van Ness, Iowa. Derek Hall, Auburn. All projected day 2, third-round picks. I'll take every one of those guys. The Atabare guy from Northwestern. All I'll say to this, go YouTube Atabare and whatever all-star game he played in. I think it was the Senior Bowl, but it might have been East-West. And there's video of him in practice. And he's going up against the nation's best all-star centers. It's an all-star game. And he is just throwing them backwards like they're nothing. Like these guys are like 198 pounds. The functional strength of Aditamiwa Atabare is just off the charts. And then you watch him in the games, and he's, you can say, he's dominating. Yeah, that guy's on the board in the second round. Jesus, I think he's a first-round pick. When I saw him work out, I was like, wow, the workout's incredible, but the film's incredible. And I know there's some rawness in his game, but the measurables and the all-star game workouts are just too good. I mean, if that guy doesn't go in the first round, I don't know. Fish and Chips, commitment, Larry. That's why we like being here. Commitment. All right, Fish. This is a good one. Someone's been watching one of my videos. Todd Tran. He says Curtis McClendon, right guard, right tackle, attainable day 3 O lineman. Good call. I love Curtis McClendon. Now, he played right guard for Tennessee Chattanooga. He's born and raised in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So this, I'm sure he hasn't been too far from home. But this guy has the footwork and the arm length where I think you could move him from right guard in the college. Normally it's the opposite, right? The guy's playing tackle in college. You kick him inside at guard in the pros because he doesn't have enough quickness to block guys off the edge in the NFL. McClendon probably doesn't initially either, but a day 3 guy like that, oh my God. I mean, he might play 10, 12 years in the NFL. Right guard, right tackle. Man, I really like him. Really like him. Perfect body for the game. 3rd string All-Pro. Larry, can you explain to Jesse that we are better? He's saying we got worse because E-Man left. We don't even know what E-Man was. E-Man is coming off an ACL. We don't even know how he was going to bounce back. The Lions took a gamble. It's a 1-year, $6 million gamble, but they took a gamble. We don't know. Now, modern medicine's an amazing thing. Guys come back from ACLs better than ever. But still, I mean, we don't know. We have no idea what he's going to be coming off the injury. And for corners, what if you invested $6 million and he can't get on the field? What if you invest $6 million and he's can't mirror anybody up and down the field? I would have tried to sign him because I really believe in him, but it's a projection. It's a projection. Was he going to play the full year? How's he going to come back off the injury? Is he going to lose speed? Can he still mirror players? We got this one. Clarsar. Jack Hammer left hours ago, Larry. Change the title of the show. Probably should. It's false advertising, man. I went hoping to hear Jack Hammer. All I got was solo Krueg. Rocky von Wagner. It's probably Wagner, but I'll say Wagner. Like Franz Wagner. Krueg, love you, man. I think we are all underestimating how uncertain and volatile our quarterback situation is right now. Your thoughts? Well, I agree. But, you drafted Trey, and it's time to see what you got. You drafted Brock. He played great for you. Now he's hurt. Bad break. But it's not like the Niners are the only team that ever had a starting quarterback that had a serious injury. Joe Burrow had a career-altering injury. He came back. So, and then Darnold, I don't like Darnold, but we'll see. Somebody liked him coming out of SC. Cold-blooded or gold-blooded says, Larry, who's going to be the kicker? Eddie Pinheiro, Carolina Panthers. Now, I like Pinheiro. He had a career year. He only made $400,000 this year. Wilkes knows him. I think he's a solid guy. He's been around the league. MF, who's a sleeper O lineman rounds 3 through 5. I'm going to say Alex Palszewski from Illinois. Check him out. There's a great YouTube video about the kid too. His parents came to the U.S. from Poland. He's just got a lot of pride. He's an emotional kid. He didn't allow a sack all year. I think hasn't allowed a sack in like almost 2 full years. Played in the Big Ten. Really good pass protector. Played right guard. Graded out as like the 10th highest rated offensive tackle by Pro Football Focus of anybody in college football this year. They have him slated for around the 5th round. I like him. I like him a lot. And I don't know if he's going to work out quite as well as you want your tackle to work out. I don't think he's going to work out as good as the kid Freeland from BYU, but I like the Big Ten lineman, do it in Champaign, Illinois on a cold day. To me, I like Palszewski. I really do. Ricardo Garcia. Larry, who do you think the 49ers need to go after now? An edge, a kicker, a corner, What they really need is they need an edge rusher. Maybe like obviously they got to have a kicker, but they got to have a playmaker. I think they need a difference maker on their back seven. That's why I keep saying CJ Gardner-Johnson, because I think they need somebody who's really a terrific player on their back seven. Somebody who can step in and really be something special. Yes. Oh my God, I got to go. Has Vish been calling me? Oh my God. All right, I got to go, everybody. Vish is waiting. Join me on Vish's channel. Calba, one last one. Hi, Larry. Sorry if you already addressed this. What would you do at kicker? Dicker, the kicker, was 21 of 22 in field goals, and he's cheap. Hopkins is returning to the Chargers. I'd offer a late round pick for Dicker. I'm sorry. Tell Vish. Join us on Vish's channel right now. We've got 384 people hanging out in the room. Join me on Vish's channel. Thanks to our sponsors. Thanks to all of you. And we are out.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever you bring me, get